of a 4.5-year campaign, and this live stream and video is really for us to talk about an epilogue together, to share our memories and moments of significance from this long journey through Dungeons and Dragons that started at level 1 and ended at level 20. And then we're going to do a bit of player and character and DM Q&A, try and unearth some secrets. I will say at the very top of the video, I will reserve the right to keep some secrets in case I wish to dip my toes back in to Cerulea in future with some of you. I will warn you that some of the answers you expect you may not get. Some of them, they may be less satisfying than you'd imagined, but I do not mind pulling back the curtain on what it's like to be a DM of a campaign this grand and this complex. Sometimes you're freewheeling. Sometimes you're deep in the strategy. It takes all kinds of styles and different kinds of prep to navigate your way through the pleasures and pitfalls of Dungeons and Dragons, I think. So anyway, it was the Courage of Cerulea. That's what I ended up calling the campaign, like 2 years into it. And it was a Forgotten Realms adjacent story that started in, was it March or April 2020?
I want to say April.
It was April.
Yeah, beginning of April. So really at the start of the pandemic.
Oh, yeah. First session 0 with Joxy and whatever was 3rd April. That was a Friday. That was the only one of the very few sessions we had that wasn't on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Following on from that, we switched to Wednesday. So 3rd April was the start.
Very good. So, we started not with our current lineup. Lucas and John, I had met at a kind of board game, role-playing game weekender in Manchester, run by Dungeons and Flagons, who are still going. Shout out to James. And we also had Gareth, who attended those. We had Andy, a friend from close to me. And we also had Joe, who had been attending, who I think was the only one who really had previous experience of me in a campaign back over here in Blackpool. Over the time, obviously, things happen. Joe left, Andy left, Gareth left, all under very different circumstances, and we adopted quite early on. Kirsty, you were only a couple of months in, weren't you? June, yeah, sure. Really great. Lucy, I think you were present for at least 2.5 years, if not more.
I think it was two and a bit, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think you guys have enjoyed a campaign or participated in a campaign for longer than most people ever have. What do they say? Like 95% of games don't get past level 10. And Gav joined us, who I'd played with before, and another personal friend of mine. But you joined us just for the finale. And you joined up for the Q&A as well.
I couldn't be bothered with the rest of it, so I just thought,
Yeah.
the
best part. Yeah.
Skip to the end.
So, I loosely outlined the order of proceedings, but I would like to start with the epilogue before we get into the kind of meta game. We ended the last session with the party destroying most of the remaining elements of the Covenant of the Blood Goddess, right down to the final person who happened to be Tara, who you ended up kind of holding a mirror up to her and her kind of taking some responsibility for what she'd done, and her basically making that final request of you to let her go. I took the time to paint the picture at the end of that scene of the portal that had been opened kind of dissipating and a new dawn breaking over the Crystal Bay. Rather than kind of dig into the like what happens right there and then in that moment, I wonder if you've had an idea to reflect on what the Starseekers or what your individual characters' motivations would be going forward from there. So whoever wants to start with that, I'd be happy to listen to your thoughts.
I think
Rollies?
You can roll initiative if you want.
Oh man, yeah.
I don't think everyone's in Roll20, but yeah, go on, John. You, what do you think? For
I was just going to say that
Smoke?
red would be a bit easier to unwrap than Smokes would be. So to start off with that, I think that she just commits to illuminating people with knowledge and faith, and follows Lathander still devoutly. And I think probably through everything, like she had this idea that like her whole story arc was all about her salvation, right? Like she just thought she was automatically doomed to go to hell because of her infernal heritage. So the ending would be like she would accomplish this salvation and then she'd just get to bask in heavenly glory. But then after all is said and done and everything she'd been through, I think like her state of being, her heaven becomes like just to continue to lead people into the light. Perhaps it's just a realization of her own, like beginning up until that point of her story, like, you know, there must be so many other thousands of people on the Isles that have like a similar kind of doomed before they begin kind of thing, but they can be saved, they can reach salvation through the illumination of knowledge. And yeah, I think she would just commit to that practice and then just follow in the faith of, she wouldn't have to make any plans, she would just follow her faith in Lathander and Oranax as well.
So a real shift in perspective from where Red started in the story was someone who was very much kind of a prisoner of her past, and towards kind of looking towards the future and giving other people that chance that like Devotion and the Starseekers gave her.
Yeah, definitely. I think like
awesome.
Just going through all that to realize that at the end of it, there was never any buyout. There was never any, for as long as she thought she'd just get through all of this stuff to like land a ticket to heaven. It never worked, you know. It wasn't until going through all that she realized that it was about, you know, her faith in Lathander. And yeah.
Do you think she would re-establish the Halls of the Dawn Chorus in Crystal Spear?
Yeah, definitely. I think so.
Yeah. Cool. I would have liked to have seen that.
There would maybe be some real deep emotional content to the idea of her doing that with Lucretia. You know, who knows how that might end up, or whether she would be super jaded against Lucretia forever, you know, and couldn't do it.
Yeah. How far does her forgiveness run? Interesting. Can you really forgive your own worst enemy?
Yeah, that was crazy to get to that point at the end. Like, I really had like years of plans to like finally defeat Lucretia. Like, in fact, I took one 9th level spell and never used it in the campaign, and it was imprisonment. And the plan was I would been like trying to wrap my head around it like month after month, like how can I, because it's so difficult. It takes like a minute to cast the whole spell. You can't just like, you know, fail a save. Like it's a whole thing. I thought, you know, by the end, my goal is to like imprison her. So then when she like turned a new leaf and like became good, it was like so mind blowing, you know, but it was cool.
Do you know, I know we'll refocus on the epilogue in a moment, but I was just yes-anding you at that point, I think. And actually what occurred to me after you decided to send her to heaven is actually like, Well, we've had many an enemy that has been struck down in a grand finale, but that's not always the way life works. You don't always get your cinematic ending, and actually, the more difficult challenge may be to kind of swallow it and accept it and move on.
Definitely, because if she'd been smoked down, then it would have been like, yeah, I get revenge and stuff. But it's like you can't follow Lathander, or you can't be fully lawful good if you believe that like you just punish your enemies. Like if she did get sent to heaven, it's right. What she wanted was just like, oh, all the souls up there, I'll beat the shit out of her and then I'll be happy. But obviously that's like that's not goodness, is it? To do the good thing is much more difficult.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a quick question, John? If Red knew what was going to happen and could go back and choose to send her somewhere else, would she?
I don't know if she'd go back to change that decision, but if she could have known ahead of making the decision, she would have sent her somewhere else. Yeah.
In a mindset in that moment.
Yeah, it was like, this is the only place I can feel responsible to send her to, like, where she will be. Because there's a limit of where I could send someone through plane shift on the one hand, but also Lucretia was so powerful. If I send her to some random plane where she's going to be free to act and have every chance of getting free, she's so powerful, she would just do it, So I thought Mount Celestia is going to be one of the only places where she's not going to be able to like fight her way out of that corner,
Yeah, where the bosses are.
But yeah, she would have been too spiteful and wanted too much vengeance. If she'd known that would have happened to her, she wouldn't have sent her there. No, I don't think.
Okay, thank you for that, John. Who wants to go next? Where do they see their character going after this finale? There you go.
No, not muted. Short term, I think I would go to Our Lady Weaver of Stars to hang out with them for a bit. Talk to Narlo and Valzax. Try and figure out if there was a way somehow that I could secure Narlo's life. Maybe it's a wish spell, I don't know. I would chat to my girl mistress, see if I could figure it out. And
make her a real girl?
Yeah.
You've become Geppetto.
No. And if they wanted to get married or something, I would probably insist on doing that, like performing that. And then longer term, I think she would go traveling, probably by herself, and spread Mistra's word, but also just try and like shut up for a while and have some like chats with people that aren't intense or meaningful.
Like regular
Embrace some
During a gap
levity.
year.
Yeah. Is there anywhere either on the map or any different plane that you think Mia would go to?
I think it would be interesting. She might talk to Giselle about going to the Feywild. Giselle's
Very
from there,
whimsical.
right? Yeah. Maybe take a girls' trip. Who knows? I think that would be interesting to her. She's like very serious, I think, for the most part, as a character. But I like invented her to be a bit fun, and I kind of lost that, and I think maybe she lost that because of what was happening to her. So to go and seek some whimsy elsewhere would be up her street.
That definitely links to one of the questions I have later.
Okay.
So yeah, I remember when we were playing with the AI toys, and the AI suggested that Mir and Vida going out for a drink together would be
Yeah.
like unexpectedly good because of their kind of different takes and and on power and magic. I really like that idea.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, me too.
Cool. Who's next?
I can go. Unless you want to, Lucy.
No, cool.
So I think somewhere along the line in the next year or so, obviously this is dependent on the entire team. But we can say 12 months, whatever. She'd eventually want to, complete her story, which would be to recover the soul and save her family, right? Because that's the bit that Tilly didn't get to resolve in the campaign. So somewhere along the line that she would have obviously, this is Pandemonium Trip, this is the thing that we were planning to do, but other pressing matters happened. So she definitely would have gone out and reached out to all the Star Seekers to help with that at some point in whatever you can call it, 6 months, 12 months, whatever. And I think in sort of like going forward, even before that and after that, hopefully she's successful. I think she'd want to. Get back to Jadewater and restore that place to what it was. Get the town back to what it was. We never got to visit, so we don't know in what state it was. But go back there. Get a druid circle. She's an archdruid at this point, so she'd be probably heading something like a druid circle there and teaching young gnomes and young halflings and humans and elves, whoever wants to, the ways of nature.
Allow me to furnish you with a little bit more colour with Jadewater. You're right, it is a place we never got to visit, but it was a place that I had prepped.
I bet.
And it had been sat on my back burner. So I can tell you that Jadewater had become a little bit more like since Fel Rivenser, Lord Silveranth, the big dragon that you destroyed, totally destroyed that village, then it would have fallen kind of back to nature. And although it would have been very interesting to pick through, kind of like an archaeologist, finding the ruins that lay just beneath the surface of the dirt. Those very fertile lands, all of that. How forest fires actually enrich the soil and kind of create a kind of a platform for new life to spring. It would have been really wild and certainly an idyllic place to start a new druid circle. And I'm sure it would have been a place of, significance, especially if somehow Tilly were able to return from Pandemonium, soul intact, and who knows, bring back who, what, or with her. I think that was, I would say that is the story we came closest to telling, but. The dice rolls, we did a lot of prep and we were ready to go.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that's kind of, so yeah, she sort of returns and manages to, in either way, either secure the peaceful transition of those souls or bring them back to whatever life, whether it would be through some kind of a deal, whether it would have been threatening the curator with Mammon, or sending them on each other, or doing some crazy stuff that she might be willing to do, or just plainly beat him at his game. whatever would have happened there, she came back. I feel like she would have returned to being the fire caller and using that closest to nature and could control the spreads. And she would want to create that druid circle and recover the towns to be sort of like a safe haven for anyone who would have come back after the whatever happened in Cerulea. The gnomes that didn't have anywhere to go would be welcome there, and anybody who would have been on the wrong side of things but then regretted it would always have a space there. You know what I mean? So
awesome, very good, thank you. So, Lucy, you can pick a character.
Yeah, I'll go with Giselle based on the last two because it kind of fits. So Giselle had like sort of 2 missions left, obviously get her soul back, but she in her head was still thinking about Velvet Wonder and V, and that she's in the book, which is at the Vade Mecum. So I think she would start there, maybe try and get the rest of the team to help her with that, see if she could return V back. And then obviously the return. So I wrote, see if anybody be up for retrieving souls, aka Tilly, but maybe that's a team thing. And then I think there's a couple more things. So she'd obviously want to contact Kamoon, maybe live with him for a little bit, kind of spend some time with him. Because Giselle's got so many like different pockets as well. She's got the Feywild. She's also got Najarim. But I think that's her one true friendship to begin with. So I think she would spend time there with Kamoon. And then I think the Queen of Air and Darkness over in the Feywild, so this links with Mia's story. We never really understood who that was. And from Giselle's memory, that she's like capturing all of the changelings. And Giselle's got a bit of fight in her now. And I think she'd want to be a little bit of a hero in that.
Overthrow the Queen of Air and Darkness herself?
And save the changelings. There's a bit of hero complex.
Cool.
So yeah, and sort of be a beacon of hope for those people living in fear, I guess, over there. And then she's also got to go back to Najarim. There was a story there, and Alethra. But yeah, I think that would be sort of the last part. I think there's other things that are kind of motivating her before.
Yeah, she's got a whole nother campaign in her, it sounds like.
She's got like 6 missions or something, yeah. So yeah, I think that works with like sort of Tilly's story and Mia's story.
Well, stuff I can reveal related to that is that V's book was in one of the locations in the Vade Mecum. But it wasn't it. She was no longer in it. You would find that V had been discovered in the book and extracted from the book and imprisoned in the prison that you sent Alethra to liberate. So if you guys had gone there, you would have found Velvet Wonder.
Oh.
But you couldn't go everywhere. Time was of the essence. But I'm sure it would not have taken long. In the immediate aftermath of the Vade Mecum, V and Giselle, I'm sure, would have been reunited, and V would have been a worthy ally, I'm sure, in any of those missions that Giselle would have kind of turned her hands to. So yeah, would have could have happened, but didn't. Just. All right. John, what about, in fact, Gav, what about Castian?
So it was nice to play an edgy character to start with, because I've not really played like a edgelord cool guy before. So for a few sessions, it was fun to do. Mm-hmm. I wanted to join at the end and have some impact in the story, but not necessarily take over the story. 'Cause as far as I'm concerned, it's your guys' campaign, and I'm a guest at the end. So I tried to add a little flavour into that last session, and
I think you got the balance just right.
Yeah, I wanted there to be a bit of trepidation of, is he going to turn? Is he going to go against us? And
Oh,
think
there
my-
was trepidation already.
Well,
yeah.
you described this like you. I'm reaching. Giving this sword to my father. I'm like, no, this is me all over again. I'm not. I can't deal with it.
Yeah.
But
So-
it was good.
Castian's intentions are. This is only really the beginning for Castian. It's in his head. He's got a thing that all the great houses and the old. How did you describe it? As like the old bloodlines, ancestral bloodlines.
Yeah.
Like he considers all of those to be corrupt and foul. So, in part of his mission, he would carry on trying to root out the cause of this evil. He doesn't
You
necessarily.
mean like going out and killing every Saruk on the island?
Not necessarily, no, but he doesn't necessarily believe that it was all Ilhan and Denevere.
He's
he believes
Denzel Washington, Man on Fire in the Cerulean Isles. Like,
he believes that the other houses, like the Estefaxes and the Savories, were involved and things along those lines. So he would approach Tisha at some point and ask if she would like to go with him, because he, as far as he's concerned, his campaign's just starting. And he would maybe hire people along the way and disappear into the shadows. But use what he has of House Montanay's wealth to support this cause of getting to the root of the corruption. And I spoke with Dan a little bit about this, and there was a name, Inania Onyssus, that came up.
Onassis, yeah.
So
yeah.
as soon as he was done here, he would be recruiting for his next step, because he's only just getting started.
I've got visions in various taverns in various dark corners of the Isles of a lone Yuan Ti sat in the shadows. You know, whisper, I'm putting together a team. Like,
Exactly that, yeah.
Would that what would that do to noble houses and in there? Like, it would have literally, you're trying to dismantle a societal order here because of your.
The idea kind of behind it was that he wanted to be like the boogeyman, like not even the royal houses, the ancestral bloodlines are safe. Like,
it's kind of like the French Revolution, right? Like, all of these vested interests have been proven to have been kind of working towards or indeed openly subjugating the masses. I think starting a popular uprising would be possible, certainly if with the right allies in the right places. But it would take a concerted effort, I'm sure, and you'd have to leave no stone unturned. Which is a whole nother campaign in and of itself.
Courage of Cerulea 2, Castian's Revenge.
Yeah, I love it. What about Smoke then, John?
Yeah, so I think for Smoke, I mean, obviously because I was playing red more towards the end of the campaign, it kind of like trailed off in terms of how much detail we got into what had happened next and like since the like clans meeting at Tiger's Watch and everything like that. But
so you have still quite a few unanswered questions for Smoke that might inform his next few steps.
Yeah, potentially, but I think as where things got to, I mean, whatever happened, it got to the point of the finale session. We know that much, you know. And from what I understand, he kind of united the Tabaxi clans. They've got this problem now where they don't really have a god. They have the whole Urkashindi thing was like a ruse, and then when he experienced Malar, that was like adversarial, you know, as like the god of the hunt, right? From understand is like a chaotic evil god. So they need either an alternative or a god or a religion or culture built around something more powerful to follow. But I think it's kind of like what you just said, Gav. Like, it's obviously Smoke was playing right from the beginning, so he's been through a campaign. But from where it goes from here would really be his campaign as king of the Tabaxi, basically. You know, like, I don't know if you call it king, but you know, if he's the leader of all of the Tabaxi, he'd want to usher in like a new cultural age, basically, which would involve what he set out to do initially, which was to integrate and learn about other races and species on the Isles and live like kind of in unity. But the way he always saw it was like the Tabaxi had been put on the back foot through so much like oppression, and you know, from obviously the settlement wars and everything like that, they'd been not eradicated, but you know, really you know, eviscerated in terms of the population.
Yeah, they'd lost a lot.
So there's still like a very much like a chip on his shoulder about that, but he's less concerned about taking vengeance on all like innocent people from other species and stuff like that, and more about finding a new way to rebuild the population of Tabaxi and create like a real force to be reckoned with that cannot be budged from the Isles and is much more integral, like more in the way that like the elves are throughout the Isles, especially now there's this collapse of their structure because of all the Saruk stuff. And then
I think Smoke just goes put a big banner in the crater where the Vade Meccan was. This is where we're going to set up.
Yeah, so there would be like no foot off the gas type kind of thing of like, now is the opportunity to expand the Tabaxi population and culture. But also it's like full on continue like Castian's idea of like basically their prey, the culture, I guess, would be around being the hunters of the Isles, but having a very stringent and rigid structure about how they go about that. And it's specifically about hunting down Saruk, which are like really ancient and they need like digging out of holes. You know, it's not just like a big war between two large armies. It's like it'd be a very underground war to fight, you know, and like
big guerrilla tactics.
Yeah.
Very much aligned with Castian in that respect.
Exactly, yeah. And I think there'd be a lot of like, there'd be one very public side of this is the new cultural age of the Tabaxi and the new rules we're going to enforce and arrive at together, and you know, society will change and will bring about peace and stuff like that. But then there'd be a very like clandestine, only Tabaxi know about this kind of thing, but we will root out every last trace of Saruk, if that's even, you know, politicians and like elven politicians and all that kind of stuff.
It's like Jewish special forces after Second World War and hunting Nazis in like Brazil, I guess, and things like that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's cool.
So it'd be very much like
that Smith song, like a rush and a push, and the land that we stand on is ours. Like, you'd just be like, come on.
Yeah, because I think it's his story of the campaign of going from, you know, level 1 to 20 and what we play was all about arriving at the point of being able to lead all the clans, you know, and unite the clans. But in terms of his character, he's now arrived at his like coming of age point. You know, he's accomplished what needed to be done before he can now do what he's supposed to do. Yeah.
Love it. And I guess we will just dial back to Tisha.
Yeah, so Tisha's sort of main priority at this point is Naeem, and seeing if we can get her back. So that would be sort of traveling back with Freddie, I think. And then also, I think it's a bit like how Mia said about less trauma after everything she's been through. I think it's a case of seeing if that relationship would survive after everything, working on that. Obviously, there's a marriage there, so potentially I wouldn't even know what the future would hold, but that would be the sort of the main goal. And also, she's changed, right? So she's now all blood magic rather than sorcerer, thunder, all the powers that we had. So she needs to come to terms with that, I think. And I think understanding a bit around what she can do, like nobody ever saw her turn into a Saruk, but she's got that capacity, and that's probably quite scary to her, at the same time powerful. So I think figuring it all out who she is and who she wants to be and what she can be is a big thing. Lots of introspection. And then back, and I just wrote that, if there is a relationship that can be built with Castian, bearing in mind Nain, if we can bring her back, great. But like, she's got family built in friendships. But if there's actually a family in blood, that would be a great place to start. And then, yeah, and maybe depending on the Freddie situation, the research, I don't know, maybe if there was a place on the council again, or if that council still exists or whatever, to kind of build. Yeah, I think with Tisha, there's a lot of like figuring herself out first and then working through what feels right.
Yeah.
Where she's
There's still a lot of therapy that needs to be had.
Yeah.
Oi.
Yes.
In terms of the kind of blood magic thing, we didn't really get a chance to investigate the area that you had the final battle in, but on the desk where Ilhan was conducting his portal summoning would have been the Codex Sanguis, which Kirsty actually helped me design. So the Blood Codex, with the ultimate power being to, basically plug a hole, bust a hole between either the material plane and the Shadowfell or the Fugue plane rather, to bring about Dendar, or indeed to bring forth the 531st layer of the Abyss, which is Vudra, obviously, which would flood the world in blood. So yeah, pretty badass codex. But yeah, I'm sure Tisha would take custody of that, probably, or give it to Mia, or I don't know. What do you think?
I think she'd give it to Mia
Yeah,
as a
lock it
codex
down.
collector. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if there was any research to be had, like to learn some stuff, I think she would take advantage of that as well.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, God, I mean, just talking about what's next for all those characters just, makes me just want to go and do those things, But, sadly, you cannot follow every single story, because every time you follow a story, new ones emerge. It's emergent storytelling. I think that's part of the fun of D&D. It's discovering those secrets and following those breadcrumb trails and speculating on and just following up on the things that interest you. And I think I tried very hard to follow your guys' lead. I guess, to what extent I was successful in that is really not something no one could objectively reflect on, not even myself, as I look back and think about how much did I plan and how much did I plan based on you guys. It's almost impossible for me to know. But I have a few questions for you guys later, which might help us kind of speculate on that a little bit, if that's what we want to do. Just a quick housekeeping question. Do we still need a break at past, as per?
Yeah, I just need to get downstairs. It doesn't have to be long.
If we're running as usual time-wise, it'd be good because I've not eaten. Yeah.
Definitely take some time to eat. I don't know. I don't think. There's no way we'll be running until 10:30, 11. Absolutely not. I would say we're about a third of the way through, and we've been at it less than an hour. So, at least. So, do you still want to break at past, or do you want to leave it?
Well, I have to.
Yeah. Well, I know you have to move, but do you want? How much time do you want? Normal
10
time,
minutes?
less
10
time.
10 minutes?
10 minutes.
Yeah, I've had tea, but we can do 10 minutes in 10 minutes. Okay, cool. All right then. So the second part of the epilogue was, I think this was just reflections now. So now we've kind of looked forward. the time is to look back. And I guess I just would like to know on my little reflection document, what is your favorite? We'll go through the. Oh, sorry, I'll go through the tiers, and you can tell me your favorite bits from each of those tiers. So you might have seen that I organised pretty much most big things that happen in the campaign into 4 tiers. So if I read out tier 1 and I read out all the things that you guys did in tier 1, you guys want to reflect on what your favorite bits from that era, like did things go how you expected, just to kind of go back in a time machine very briefly. We might get 1 tier done. So tier 1, I've said, was Maloon. Maloon is where I asked you guys, I gave you the map and I said, like, where do you want to start? And you picked Maloon. And so we started at the Brassthorn Inn with Tony, the tiefling. And you then had a look around this small village and probably spent most of your time in Madame Friona's tea kettle. But loads of things emerged from there. Obviously, the story of the Baron von Morxidor, and his rivalry with Kellum Magna, and the corruption of Kellum's son Draco. You had your emergence as the courageous Gnoll Slayers. Obviously, went by another name. You had, I think it was Joe, but yeah. You had Lone Spell's first appearance. You had Tara Lone Spell and her death. You had the Oblex revenge and Joxy kind of changing from a cartographer to a demonologist. You had the prison, White Stag Citadel, and you had the mirrors, which a few people have asked about. And you had the first clan meeting really at the end of that tier. So all of those things happen just between levels 1 to 5, pretty much. So is there anything that stands out to you? Do you think you're fondly, or?
I was just gonna double check where the how big of a span time wise that was. So you counting the second tier starting when we got to Silvercrest?
Pretty much, yeah. Storm Cradle I would count, because I think you went to Storm Cradle first.
Yes.
Or maybe you went to Silvercrest first, but yeah, Silvercrest, Storm Cradle would be tier 2.
Yeah, so I guess that wasn't that so much happened, but it Paolo joined us as Valzax in October, so only within about 6 months.
So 6 months of campaign to get.
And it feels like this part was longer than that. Maybe just to me, from my memories of it, the absolute 100% best thing ever was the whole Oblex session. We had absolutely amazing, like a golden moment of mix of role play. We all got into it. We haven't had any long discussions about what we're gonna do. We just went and did and checked these things, and it was absolutely beautiful. And it was so interesting, and the Lone Spell escaping in that moment, and none of us knowing what the hell would that mean for years to come. We could have killed him as well. Like, we were close. I do remember that we were. There was a few rolls, and then we missed the spells, and he cast some spells and teleported and whatever. But there was every possibility we could have ended that there. It's crazy.
I think that was one of my favourite early monsters to run, the Oblex. It was probably my first boss monster.
Oh, good.
And I think it's just so like weird and Lovecraftian. And I think at that point, I think one of the first source books that I bought, is it down here? It may be, it may not be, but I bought the Sandy Peterson Cthulhu Mythos book, which is adapted for 5th edition, and it gave me so much dark and creepy inspiration. So it definitely wouldn't surprise you that the Obelix came while I was reading that book, and then after I read it more and more, things like Panaku started to enter into my brain.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like that was just. I feel like it was in Act 1. There was like a lot of stuff that would come back. We're talking like vampires and gods, where we had like Saloon. We had the Selenites, didn't we?
Yeah.
The sisters.
Mm-hmm.
They appeared in my first session or very early after I started. The flying
Which
fish
are you talking about? The Halfling sisters?
No, I meant the flying fish sisters. Were they
yeah.
not?
Yeah, they were Silvercrest.
We met them in Silvercrest.
Oh.
But I think I do remember that. Didn't we meet them in like a wagon or something that they were?
Oh yeah. I remember. So what was it called? Camp Promise was like
That's where Mir was living in.
Yeah.
They were like traveling entertainers and stuff, right? And then we got tickets from them, I think, to go to the place in Silvercrest.
Yeah, and they were already plotting to kill him, and we didn't know. We had no idea. That's so good.
The Obelix is my favorite too.
Yeah. Cool.
I think it just.
Go on.
It was very early on for me, and I think I hadn't really, although I played a bit of D&D before, not loads. It was like a bit eye-opening, but in a good way. And like just an exciting fight, and I fucked up, and it's just led to like 4.5 years of me fucking up, but having a nice time regardless. But was it the Obelix? What was the goop that Coronac drank?
That was part of the Obelix leftover. Yeah, that happened a few sessions later. Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've watched that video back over the years. It still brings me so much joy.
Yeah.
It was total, like, there was no pressure on anything. It was just like, oh, an NPC brings you this strange looking vial, and then an hour of total what the fuckery.
We had to scoop him up in the bucket because he couldn't keep a form, so he had to be in the bucket.
Mm-hmm.
That was just great.
Awesome. I also liked really planting the seeds and exploring the kind of like how Smoke at that point like fit in, like the kind of rivalry with like Thunder in the Morning and the Distant Rivers and the Trailing Coast clan, like kind of setting all the scene for that.
Yeah, it was cool. It was definitely, that was one thing I was going to say about it. Like, one of my favorite things back then, I thought the Obelix definitely, like, even without remembering details, I just think Obelix, I remember the goo, you know? Like, but I think just before that, like, what was cool about it was that it was so whimsical back then, you know, in those early levels. Like, there just wasn't as much, not the pressure in a bad way, like it became later more, you know, deeper, but like it was just so much simpler at that start, and you could just be, it was sillier, and I felt like Smoke was a real younger character back then, you know, and he was really just like kind of a little bit bratty and like, you know, kind of having fun and really just like away with the wind, to where he got to later was like a total evolution, you know. So to look back, you know, you kind of like, you can't go back to being like that, because later on you're like killing gods and trying to stop the end of the world, and you know. So when you look back at it, it's so much fun, like in those early levels, to just do stupid stuff and smoke pipe weed or whatever it was, and like jump off of roofs and stuff, you know.
Yeah, I get that. It's you can, once you start weaving in those like epic storylines, it's like you're going down a roller coaster. You just, you know, you're then out of control and you have to do the heroic thing. But yeah, the heroic thing back then was just try the potion.
yeah. There was less pressure on the characters to do stuff. You know, they didn't have like big missions and stuff. You know, but it should be like that. It should change. I think for me, it's like it gets harder later on to try and balance the like whimsical fun that you still want to have, but make it make sense in roleplay. You can still have it, and you kind of work out how to mix a balance and stuff. But think it should be different when you're level 20 compared to level 2. You know, like
Totally.
it's a different feel to the game. Like,
all right. Well, that concludes our little tier 1 reflection, and we're going to take a short break. So we'll be back in 10 minutes or so.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah.
Bye bye. Welcome back. We're doing the Bard College Courage of Cerulea epilogue, where we just discussed what was next for our characters and reflected on some tier 1 highlights that were very Oblex-centric. We're going to move on to tier 2 now. I'll just read out my kind of summation of all the things that happened. We've got Castor and Corazel's a jet and the assassination plot of the Flying Fish Sisters. We've got the invasion plan by Calixeros, the emergence of the Council of Stars, Stormcradle, Valzax and the Argent Knights, excursion to Sargrangela. We've got Panaku and Galen's corruption. We've got Yostin and the Clock Tower. We've got the arrival of Red and Tisha into the campaign. We've got Reginald Rosemantle's legacy, and Lucian Broadgrove's resurrection. We've got Freddy and the Spire of Silver Candles, and we've got Galen's death at the hands of Lone Spell.
I think you might have missed Coronac's death in there, but yeah.
Oh, and Coronac's death, of course. Yeah. This was just off the top of my head yesterday. Coronac at the same time as Tisha's emergence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Coronac's death as well. So much. What are your reflections and favourite moments from those parts of the campaign?
I know definitely one of my favourite bits, unless this was slightly into the next tier, but I think it was beheading Lucian Broadgrove.
That was the very end of that tier.
Yeah, that was so cool. Because it was very like, because I'd switched over to playing Red, obviously, for a lot of the time. And we were all kind of like more or less pally with Lucian Broadgrove. And the whole time I'm thinking, oh my God, Smoke would hate this. Like, but I can't, he's not here. I can't voice a different opinion of a different character, And obviously I never want to I don't want to go against other players. Like, I don't mind if there's differences between characters, but I never want to antagonize other players. And you guys are all amazing to play with and stuff. But I had to stay true to the character when he came back. Was he couldn't be okay with it. It's he didn't feel betrayed by the rest of the group necessarily or anything, but it was this decision that they'd made to basically ally and party up with his ideal
nemesis.
Worst enemy, historical nemesis, So for them to cut that head off and to be able to continue, I think it was a testament to having good players at the table and us having good relationship as players, that I felt okay, yeah, we don't have to work our way around making the character unrealistic or against the narrative and roleplay just to kind of make sure everybody's happy. It was we were still happy as players, so it was a fun conflict and it happened so suddenly that it was very shocking as well. So it was fucking awesome.
Yeah, I think on a lot of tables when those feelings come up, it would look like to the uninformed viewer that this was this is what my character would do kind of moment, which is obviously the death knell of any kind of sense and cohesion that you've got at the table. But to be able to actually pull it off in such an exciting and dramatic way, and then to get to go afterwards or before, around the same time to the clan meeting where we looked at when that seed was planted in Smoke's head, that when he was told, I found that really, really satisfying. I mean, a feeble-minded Lucian Broadgrove was about as much use to the party as a headless one, so it made no difference to me.
That was a good one.
Yeah. What about anybody else? All those things that happened.
I don't think we can not talk about Panaku.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just the fight, it was the whole lead up to it. The fact that as players, even in our text chat, we were scared to type his name because of what the consequences might have been.
Yeah.
But then
I mean, we haven't even got to the fight, which is in the next tier. I think this is.
Oh, is it? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is his emergence.
He haunted us.
Yeah.
and it was amazing. Yeah, he's my favourite baddie of the whole game.
Yeah. Credit to Lucas for really running with it.
It's insane that bit. Yeah.
You know, I like I said, I'd had my head in the Cthulhu Mythos book, and that's very much about, you know, madness and insanity, and to get to play with some of those things in like Galen's dreams and his private movements, his kind of, you know, I remember explaining one scene very where he's kind of looking in a mirror, and the kind of broken bits of mirror seem to kind of reform, and basically I just really wanted to help push Galen over the edge.
Oh yeah, definitely. I felt it, and that was one of my two absolute favorite things about this chapter, or whatever arc you want to call it. The moment I remember vividly when we had the discussions before the fight, and someone, I think it might have been Freddy, said, whatever you do, do not make a mental psychic connection with this thing, with abominations. It's really bad. And then during the fight, we're doing all the fight, I'm like, I'm gonna mind spike him. It's a really cool cantrip. And then I say I do it, and then in this very second, I'm not gonna claim now that, you know, I've done it on purpose, because I didn't. I forgot in a moment. But in a split second that I realized what happened, the look on your face as if I just handed you a best present and you're a 5-year-old kid, and you're like, I still remember this with dread. It was great.
I think, Lucas, as well, for me, I need to give you a lot of credit for helping me improve my DMing in the game, especially up to that point in the early kind of half of the game, because you have an encyclopedic knowledge of the rules, yet you carry that with a flexibility and accommodation of kind of how to enforce them and things like that. And so for me, it was like, really? The smart player just forgot the thing that I spelled out? Like, do you know what I mean? It was like you say, it was like a bolt from the blue. It was so unexpected. I just had to grab it and run with it.
Yep.
So yeah, I've got to thank you for that. I very much enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was literally a gift. But I honestly, in the moment, it was just, we were just going from round to round, and this was a narrative thing, which I just forgot about in a second. So I remembered 2 seconds later, literally, as soon as I saw your face, I remembered. But obviously, I kind of just waved it off, like, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? And fuck. The other thing was the entire freaking clock tower running up to the bombs, and then the final fight with Yosten, which was fucking amazing, and everything about it. The after we chased him into the basement of the castle, and everything that we did, that was absolutely top class.
I wrote in my notes about when you put like write down our favorite parts. I just put Yosten.
He was such a hateable character.
Yeah. Bad guy, gnomish Iron Man.
Absolutely. Pain in the
yeah, I enjoyed it, and it was nice just to bring back a little, references to that in the kind of final few sessions. It's just for our kind of amusement more than anything else. Yeah, I enjoyed that one. I think that was my first time experimenting with like in terms of time and urgency, kind of having a ticking clock and putting everybody under pressure. It's like a different way of playing. Maybe I didn't shake off that enjoyment enough, and maybe applied a bit too much pressure throughout the rest of the campaign, but yeah, I think it was when I read about devastation orbs that all come from different elemental nodes. As a D&D magic item, I just found that really inspiring. So yeah, I planted 4 of them in my new city that I just created. So yeah, cool. So Lucy, it was your this is where you kind of joined the game, as it were. Above the table, do you remember? It's such a distant memory for me, but do you remember me approaching you about the game? Do you remember what you were thinking at the time? Do you remember how you felt as a new player coming into an existing group?
So yes and no. I've just had to look up like when did Tisha meet Freddie, because I've literally forgotten like the story sort of evolved. But for me, joining, I think it was a text to you that was like a random, oh, by the way, I remember you were into this, and I've just started this with my family, and we're in COVID, and and you were like, hey, would you want to try it out? And I was like, oh god, you're so serious as a group compared to what I was playing, and I was like, oh, but you've got to give it a go, right? And so I sort of came in as that sort of one opportunity, see how it feels. And I just remember, I think my first ever sort of acting was just a scream. Like that was my entry, because I was in terror because of what had happened with the family and stuff, which is going on around me. I'd never played on this level before, and not really knowing the rules. And I also remember sort of hiding behind Red a lot. Be like, just going to move over to you. I don't know what I'm doing. So yeah, it was quite overwhelming, but also like really fun, trying to figure out like how the dynamics of it all. Trying to stay true to your character, because you come in like you're acting. You're like, oh, I've got to be this. I've got to, forget all the rules of how to play
What's
a role.
Motivation?
Yeah, What's my motivation? Who am I? Where have I? And we had a few back and forth on the questions around that to understand like my family and where I was at. And obviously, I didn't know half of what was about to happen. So yeah, that was my first memory, sort of joining and trying to understand it all, then I don't think I came back straight away. I think maybe, or did I? I can't even remember.
No, so you played 5 episodes with us for
straight
the
away.
Iron Alien, as Tisha, with the 4th one was Coronac died, and then there was the last one where we all left, and then you haven't joined. That was in June 2021. And then you joined full time in October that same year.
Yeah, that feels
4 months. 4 months later, and that entire stage 2, by the way, was 12 months. So the first one was 6 months. This was 12 months.
It was 2021.
Yeah.
So Lucy's been with us for 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was like 2 and a bit.
And I swear, up until like 6 months ago, you were always like, I'm new to this. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm new.
I have like my card throughout the whole thing. Yeah.
She's been playing since the 20th of
You've got more experience, Lucy, than 90% of D&D players, I would say.
Yeah.
You got to level 20 with 2 characters. Jesus.
Although I will say, you guys bring up that first section a lot. About what you, and I was always like, what the, who, how, how does this connect?
This is how Gav feels now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, was there a point where you thought, where you were hooked in, where you thought like, yeah, I want to come back? Was it the vibe at the table? Was there a particular element of the story where you were like, oh, this is interesting, I'd like to explore more of this? Or were you just like, oh, well, we're still in lockdown, so I might as well keep playing? Or
I can't remember. I remember thinking everybody was really nice, and obviously texting you that after, being like, oh, and then trying to break down each of the like what you brought to the table and like how fun it was and the different like styles of playing. I think
you needed a bit of reassurance about that, didn't you? How everyone was different and there wasn't a set way to play D&D.
Yeah.
And I really found that refreshing. I really wanted you to join because sometimes that fresh approach can really shake up party dynamics, but also you don't know what you don't know, so you'll try shit that you don't know whether it's impossible or not, and that that helps. I think you are having restriction or knowing the rules can be really limiting rather than freeing. So I think that's what I really wanted. You weren't like a chaos goblin who was like, oh, now I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. You just you always thought carefully about what you wanted to do, but you weren't ever restricted. From my perspective, and I'm very, very glad you made it all the way through to the end of the campaign.
Here we are, yeah.
Here we are, yeah. Any other thoughts on tier 2? Any of those other things talked about? Panaku, Yostin.
I was just going to ask, just not necessarily about tier 2, but just tack on what you were saying there. Like, well, for you, Lucy, but also for you, Dan. Like, what do you see each player's styles when you say like everyone kind of has a different style? What do you see those as? Like,
God, have you got that text, Lucy?
3 years ago. Yeah.
Now, it takes all sort of, everybody brought something different across the campaign, and it would be very difficult for me to sum what you all brought after years and years of investment to do it justice, because I think by now, like you say, we're so experienced that we have myriad skills, and everybody, everybody has got a lot of practice in playing in different ways. But your individual personalities, your expectations, I think, what can I say? I can say that, John, with you, I think I felt like we did a lot of escalation between us. Like there was that trust between us meant that I felt very comfortable yes-anding with you a lot. I think, I don't know if that is just a kind of, a subtle understanding or a commonality in where we think the story should go. We have never discussed it, and that's why it was so satisfying. We never really planned on what to do. It just happened.
True.
Lucas, I've talked about your how balanced you were in terms of not only your knowledge, but your acceptance that the rules are not what makes the game, and your desire to look past those in search of an interesting story. Your enthusiasm.
It was a journey. It was a journey, and there was ups and downs in that. But I think I've learned just as much as you did. So as much as everyone, really. Yeah,
I think not only that, but what we were talking about at the beginning of the game with Gav, talking about setting the standards at the table. I think you, at the beginning of the game, you were very clear as the only one really with like family commitments, that you were like, I get a very limited amount of free time. This is how I want to spend it. And, I don't want to waste that time. And I think that just set the tone for everybody, because we didn't want to, we didn't want to let you down, but then also, as we began to serve the story, it just became self-perpetuating, and nobody wanted to take a session off. And, obviously life got in the way at certain points, but I am still aghast at how committed and invested everybody became.
That's true.
I would second that for you, Lucas. I think your motivation has really kept us going a lot. And your enthusiasm is very infectious, and has really helped us along a lot.
Thanks.
Like, we play a live game, and then 2 weeks later you're like, cool, so when's the next one? And like, what are we gonna have for food that day? And we're like, yeah, it's great.
I just kept myself like, you're a bit too much right now. You're a bit too much. Maybe you're a bit too much.
Yeah.
But it was. Honestly, I never felt like this was a chore or like me trying to, do something against everybody. I think everybody wanted this so bad. Maybe there's. People express their enthusiasm differently, and I am very overt with mine. But I don't doubt at all that throughout the whole time that we did this, that all of you wanted to do this. I never felt like, oh, somebody just like comes here because they feel like they have to. I never had that feeling, and this is, I think, why we lasted for enough years.
Mm-hmm. Lucio, we talked about your qualities already, leading on from John's, about kind of embracing the unknown, and I think that made you a really good player of like face characters, because it takes a lot of courage to come into a new group and to approach a game that you're not as confident with, and that courage was manifest in your characters. I'll go talk to the person, I'll go do the thing, I'll throw the fireball. Do you see what I mean? You are, I think, what people in TTRPG spheres would describe as an instigator. You do the thing, and every party
without being disruptive. I just want to say is like the key thing, because that's like the bad stereotype of a player that does that sort of stuff. It's like, oh god, like, interrupted every moment, or turned a negotiation session into a bloodbath or whatever. But you always have a way of being like exactly as you just said, like instigating something without it ever being antagonistic towards what we all want to do or anything like that. Like
an instigator that doesn't hog the spotlight, that is rare.
Good balance.
Really rare. And you are one of those, Lucy, which is why you're such a good player.
I'll take that. I think it was more like just from my side, like, well, somebody needs to do it. Okay, we'll go with it. So like that kind of vibe.
Kirsty, I mean, I don't want to do you a disservice here, but the party would not have known half of the shit it knows, arrived at half of the conclusions that it did, or followed any of half of the trails that it did without such a dedicated and diligent and reasoned cartographer. I think you were the voice of reason so often in the party. You pulled them back from, and I'm sure John and Lucas will admit that their kind of but what if speculation could have got out of control so many points. You would be like, hang on a minute, guys, what about this? And then it would bring everybody back to reality and, oh yeah, that's what we're doing, or you know what I mean? And I think in that way, I know most people might think of Mia as the kind of star seekers, like that kind of mother figure, but you were the voice of reason, you were the imparter of knowledge. To me, it felt like you were the part of the real heart of this campaign, and you never let any of your own frustrations kind of bleed into the table. You're competitive like most people are, but I never saw you really ever kind of like spit your dummy out or demand more of the spotlight. Again, you were to me, you're the heart and soul of the party. So yeah,
I think really nice.
I think it came kind of close with Gilchrist. There was this probably one chink in the armor.
Oh yeah, we found your crypt. Yeah, we found your
everything
kryptonite.
that came to him over and over and over again.
The whole
I would kill him in every session if I could.
It was so good.
He was extremely good as a player at pushing both mine and Mia's buttons.
So good.
But that's very kind. Thanks, Dan.
I
really loved
I agree with all of it.
She was, like I kind of mentioned before, like she was sensible. She is sensible. She's not dead. But it made it like enjoyable. Like Mia is quite a big reflection, I think, of me. Like I'm a bit of a mother and I'm a bit of a sensible person. And I'm the like, no, let's do this. Like, let's get back on track person. But then I really loved also playing Jade, who was like direct opposite. Chaos. Got to have like a fun time role playing with John, who I think is amazing. And got to like break free a bit of like the sensibleness of Mia and be like, no, I'm just going to use this like chaotic item that I found on the ground or whatever. Did I not have some seeds that just did like random things when I planted them?
The bag of beans with the statue that insulted
The
them.
Oh, that was so good.
May would have like squirreled them away in a fucking temple, but Jade was like, "Let me just like plant them as I go along."
That statue
See
is
what
still
happens."
there. That statue is still
that
there.
hates me.
That hates you and insults you.
That was so
Oh,
funny.
it just mouths me off to whoever.
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
practicing.
Jade is not welcome in Timber Reach ever.
Fine.
Sometimes those random rolling tables are just a gem.
Yeah.
That was so good.
You really did an amazing job with Jade as well, like bringing her to life. I thought, like, perfect,
Yay!
Yeah.
Couldn't have imagined her any differently, like, and you brought so much more to the table with it. It was awesome. Like, I'm very grateful for like having. I feel like I've had the luxury and I've been treated in there being so much like rich backstory and characters that we could jump into around the Tabaxi, which I feel like I kind of have like a real hand in, like obviously you've created stuff, Dan, but like it feels like it's partly the Tabaxi whole thing feels like a real part of mine in the world,
Yeah.
I feel like super grateful. I feel like even I got an inordinate amount of content and context to go in with it, like I was very like treated, I think.
I mean, it was a pleasure to. Oh, go on.
Just
Gav.
about the Tabaxi and the accent. Who came up with the accent for the Tabaxi?
Oh, that was me. Yeah, it was literally. I guess we started saying it was kind of like a Russian accent after it was literally just meant to be broken English, like some sort of tribal broken English. Like I just wanted to come up with, the idea was that Tabaxi would have their own language, and we never obviously roleplay creating a language, but it was just literally, he's speaking broken common basically, and it just blended into that accent, and it changed actually over time as well. Because partly naturally, I think I just kind of like just leaned into it, and it came to a more natural middle ground. But I could see that happening, and I was like, "This actually makes sense. I'm going with this because his English got better, basically."
Okay.
Yeah.
Common got better. Yeah. One of the absolutely best scenes that I remember young Smoke in was the scene us sitting on the roof of the tavern, smoking weed. Galen, you, Jacob, Smoke, and Hector, I think, and Coronac. That was the thingy. That was episode 2. At that moment, I knew that I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna play this game until everybody either tells me to get the hell out, or they will leave themselves. And that's what kind of.
And you thought that in session 2.
Yeah. Yeah. In that moment where we were pretending to be stoned on the roof of an inn.
Oh yeah, I think that was when I brought in one of my. I had like a narcotics. Supplement
roll
from,
table. Yeah,
it was actually designed by she'll never see this, but shout out to Becky Clunan. She is an artist who you can't see on my walls, but her art is all over my house, and she did this supplement for different kinds of fantasy weed for her Pathfinder game, and then published it on her Instagram, and I was like, I want it.
Nice.
Good. So yeah, that's where like your Devil's Root and things like that came from.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that was. We'll just jump into tier 3 as we were talking, Kirsty, about Gilcrest. He obviously appeared towards the end of tier 3 with the Last Hollow and Savori plot, but it took a long time to get there. So we had the journey to Last Hollow, where we had Tilly's introduction with Trazamin. We had Kalidaxun and Vida and her kind of re-emergence from the past. We had the First Circle, which was all of those original nature gods. We had obviously the nautical aspect with Lash and the Bilious Princess, and the clockwork squid with the gnomes. We had the divergence to Irongard, the Temple of Savras, Oswin, the Temple of Mask. We had that lycanthropy bit. We had the introduction of Vishan, the kind of weird Virian's Wish, kind of waking up in the Shadowfell. We had Pride Mount in the volcano, and then eventually to Last Hollow. God, so much stuff.
So go check how long this one took. You guys discuss.
I think the journey, and obviously with like Kaladaxian and Vida and Tilly and Traz, a lot of this didn't even start in the journey, but I think the journey even was 9 months of game time.
Jeez. Yeah. It feels like such a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But that day that we showed up at your house and there was a fucking ship on the table was extremely exciting.
That was
still one of my favourite live sessions ever. That one where Kling filled my table and put a big ship on it that I'd spent far too much money on, and we had fun fighting a dragon and fighting another ship and all that stuff.
That was so good.
Yeah.
So Galen's so Galen's death, that whole trial thing, that was October 2021. And then we had a whole bunch of stuff still. Yeah. So we had a whole bunch of stuff with the meeting Tilly and Kalidaxu and all that Vida stuff. And we actually set off on the ship.
Like February?
January. 29th of January, that was the live. Sorry, so technically it was 26th of January, Wednesday, which was still a game online, and then 29th on Saturday we did the live session. So that's late January 2022, and Gilchrist episode is late August. So we're talking 7 months on the sea between leaving Silvercrest and then arriving at the in Last Hollow. And then the Last Hollow bit ends with Tisha's sacrifice, which is end of November. 23rd of November was the end of that.
So we were traveling on the ocean longer than the entire Tier 1 gameplay.
Yeah.
Mad.
That's crazy.
Totally mad.
When was sacrifice? November 22?
Yeah, so I think it's Penance and Remorse is the episode name, which was 16th November
2 years ago.
2022.
Wow.
Anything sticking out in anyone's mind? I know what my highlight of the did it even include the Panaku fight in there? No, but
no,
obviously
that
it is in there.
Yeah, that would be sort of just after what Tisha's wedding is. Yeah, before we get to Last Hollow. Yeah, Panaku fight definitely for me, 100%. Yeah, finishing that whole thing, finding out about the all the four gods of nature becoming their champions, grabbing their the ritual, and then having that fight unscripted went exactly as dramatic as it could possibly be. With the very last roll, do you remember that was made? That we needed it not to save, and then it happened exactly the right way. And our reaction in that moment was the absolute best feeling ever.
And there was a successful divine intervention that I was very excited about. One of the first times. It felt like a very important time that it happened.
Because you had to roll. That was when we were still, level 12 or 13 or something. So
like a chump.
Like a chump. Now you just get to Mistra, I got a thing.
Yeah.
I'll say I think it was that point. It was that fight where I'd kind of organically created this villain and stalked the party with him for months, built that dread, but also sewed in, like you say, the four gods of nature and all becoming their champions to kind of bring everybody together and aim everyone towards defeating Panaku. And then, like you say, for it to have kind of come off in the way that it did, I think I felt personally like I earned my DM stripes then. That was my confirmation to me, for my own confidence, that I could do it and I was good at it and it was fun. And do you know what I mean? I think that's what I feel like my biggest accomplishment was, if you like, at that point.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have to hand it to you for you've done a really good job of making like a big bad evil entity like really pervasive. Like it was like, as you were saying before, like we were terrified to speak Panaku's name in WhatsApp. You know, like we had to like the one who would not be named or whatever. Because I think it's like, I've always thought like, man, that's such a tricky thing. Like I've done like some short campaigns and one shots and stuff, but like when it's going real long term and then you've got something that's like an enemy like that, or a, you know, like a god, a being, something like that, is like, it's not something you can just like put down on the battlefield one day and be like, yay, let's have a, you know, go at like chopping its head off. It's way more above that. So you have to build into like, without experiencing anything about it. We can't look at Panaku. We couldn't look at Dendar. We'd never seen them. We didn't know really what they were. It was all just such a mystery, but all the pieces underneath it were in place to make it point to how terrifying it was. You know what I mean? Like that's a real, like, I don't know how consciously you went into that or it came about organically or not, but like that was always just a cool thing to be.
A fucking fish in the ocean being sick and that being a problem for it. Like we couldn't eat. We had to like use magic to clean the fucking fish. It was insane.
Yeah, lots of ingredients of like different how people talk about things that happen in the world, some things that you don't even know if they're connected to it or not. Like so many questions. I think that's what does it. The more questions you can ask about it, the more you can terrify yourself. You know?
Yeah. And not providing all the answers.
Yeah.
I think that is. I think at that point I had consumed everything on the internet that Matt Colville had put out in terms of running the game, and I was definitely kind of a worshipper at his altar at that point in particular. And his storytelling technique, if you've ever watched Running the Game, where he talks about basically always have an A and a B plot. You've got your A plot, which is the big objective, and you've got a B plot or a C plot that you kind of bring in just to, like, when the A plot is so intense and everybody's worried about it, just turn it down a bit and bring in something else to do, and then later bring back the next one. And it's like you basically keep switching between your plots until the pressure is too much, and then when you finally resolve that plot and you get to the end of that arc, the release of tension is so much more. I mean, you could feel it in that fight, couldn't you? The relief. It basically helped me just that was me starting to like weave things together, and sometimes probably I weaved in a bit too much and raised too many questions, but yeah, it helped me string things out for a long time.
No, you could literally feel that absolute release after the defeating Panaku, because not only the fight was absolutely amazing and engaging and so much fun and satisfying, and for like full 10 seconds it felt like we're on top of things. And then I remembered that the whole world has just rebuilt itself from a reality that wasn't there before. And then it's like, what is real anymore? It's like, no, we killed Panaku. Just be happy about that. It's fine.
Yeah, just allow yourself to enjoy the victory before you think about what it means. Yeah.
It was pretty great. That whole thing with the Vashan and the whole plot with oh my god, Smoke going apeshit on some soulless bodies. That was just that whole thing.
Is it time to talk about Nethermancy and Vishan? Is that? I know there are a few
I was going to
questions
say
about
that was around that section of play. Like that was a really intriguing part, and also just difficult to wrap your head around. Like you know, we didn't know for a while like what reality we were in. You know, like. I guess we never really did. You know?
I mean, we still don't. This might have just been all a dream. Yeah, the whole thing was obviously, really.
I think with Nethermancy, I started to. I don't know if I was in like a Forgotten Realms kind of black hole, like tumbling down all the old editions and all the different writings they've got about all the magic systems, but. The way I can't remember where the concept of Nethermancy came from, but the idea of the kind of the shadow weave, which is official Forgotten Realms like Shah law, if you like. It's like the anti-magic or the dark magic or the black magic, the kind of the opposite of Mystra, if you like. And I was like, well, that's okay, but if I think about all the different schools of magic, like what is that for? It can't just be like evil magic. So I started to kind of explore that myself, and Nethermancy to me, it became like an offshoot of not summoning things, but bending multiverses and realities and kind of pulling people through multiverse. I mean, obviously the multiverse thing has become a bit of it's a bit overdone in popular culture now. But at that time, it was interesting to me to kind of play with that and kind of explore magic that wasn't something that you could all go and look up the rules of. It became together with Hemocraft, it allowed me to keep the mystery alive because there was no way you could all know anything about it. And I just thought, well, bending realities. I'm also really into my body horror, so what would be more terrifying than seeing a version of yourself unconscious? Like
that was so sick. Like
yeah,
looking back at it now, because that was one of the most intense moments of the campaign, I think, for me as well. Like being in that character at that time, because it was something that decision had to be made straight away, and there was so many ramifications to the fact of like there's other universe, you know, there's other parallel universes. I exist in them, and now at the time I'm realizing this, I'm presented with the fact that I might have to like kill this body, you know, like, and obviously Smoke decided that like if any version of him or if he had been trapped in some way by some type of sorcerer or wizard and then transported to another dimension in this coffin, tied up with all this weird shit, that he would just want to have been slain, and he's the best hand he could possibly be to do that, you know. So it was like a very intense but a very like sure this has to be done kind of moment. But then that had ramifications like towards the very end of the campaign. You were like just tied, so not just like, oh, like it kind of points to this thing that happened before, but like the coffins were there, our bodies were there, you know, and like Smokes wasn't because I already took care of it. Like what, exactly 3 years earlier? Like wow. Yeah.
Now here I'll pull back the curtain a little bit here. If you'd have left all of those bodies intact, then but the reason I did that is because I thought it would be fun to play with that cliche of you guys all fighting other versions of yourself, which would have been very scary, I'm sure, or it would have been really cheesy, perhaps. I don't know. But the fact that you guys did take that swift and decisive action means that I had limited pieces on the board at the end. I am just very grateful that the one that I needed was still there for my A plot, which is obviously Tisha's family and Yuan T. So I got very lucky for that. But yeah, I'm glad you found it engaging, and yeah,
what was the kind of
to me.
What was the reach of your perspective on when you first brought them about? Like, had you been planning that for a long time and then you brought them in, or you kind of brought them in as part of the whole Vishan thing, and then did you develop it later, or was it like were they like a MacGuffin for, like you say, your A plot, like long term? Like,
the Tisha vessel thing was in there early, from the prophecy from Tisha's inception. But the kind of like Vishan's involvement may have been less in cooperation with the Covenant of the Blood Goddess, and I envisaged actually almost like a trifecta where you had like Vishan and his like Nethermancer, like evil version of the Starseekers. You had Tisha's family and the Covenant of the Blood Goddess, and you had you guys as the Starseekers. But since you guys kind of cut the legs off Vishan like early on, it enabled the Covenant of the Blood Goddess to kind of like, kind of absorb him and kind of bring him on side. So that was Vishan. I deliberately kept like obscure because I felt like somebody who traveled between different realities and practiced this very mysterious kind of magic. He wouldn't have any really necessary reason to come to your Starseekers. Do you see what I mean? Because he would know a million Starseekers. Maybe there were versions of him versions of you guys that he was kind of closer to. Do you see what I mean? So he didn't really have any impetus to come to you, which unfortunately did leave a lot of questions unanswered. So I was thinking more about Vishan rather than the story at that point, and maybe that's why quite a few questions got put on the back burner. If he'd have followed you around and stalked you and you'd have captured him or whatever, do you see what I mean? It might have been more immediate. You might have got more answers.
It was cool though to have a kind of more on the fringe of our experience type character that was also very heavily involved in the story and what we were doing. You know, it's like, and also just by his nature as well, like you say, you wouldn't even know which, if you were talking to him, you wouldn't even know which Vishan it was. This could be a completely different version of him that's like good and the other one's bad, and there's another, there's 300 of them, and like it's kind of cool.
Yeah, just and I also really like going back to the vessel thing. Like, I just really love body horror, which is clear in like the whole Panaku thing as well. So yeah, I many times tried to write a Nethermancer class. I've done it. I've got 3 or 4 drafts, but nothing ever really kind of came together. I think what I discovered at that point is that if I want to play such like gonzo, reality bending, body horror, crazy weird shit, I can't really do that in D&D. I'm gonna have to play something else, and there are so many other games where I could do that. I'm looking at some of them right now, but yeah. So yeah, that was my way of just kind of exploring the kind of the limits of D&D, if you like.
Yeah.
So yeah, then we the last hollow and the volcano and the wedding on the ship with Tisha and Freddie and all of that happened, and we get then to tier 4, which is after Tisha's sacrifice. I mean, that's still one of the biggest moments in the game for me, Lucy. I don't know if anyone else really got the chance to put the party ahead of their character and make such a, like I say, brave choice. We talked about bravery earlier, didn't we? Like, to me, that was a campaign highlight that she did that. I don't know. What are your reflections on that? How did you feel about it at the time?
Well, it goes back to what we were saying about like when you're new and like you've got this flexibility to kind of play around and be a bit crazy. Because I just made the decision a month prior to marry Freddie, and I didn't know I was going to do that. It literally happened in the moment. Like, okay, we're doing it. We're doing it. We're going with it, and I'm rolling.
That's great. Yes, I'm
generally how I decide life. But yeah, and then you had to now have non-player character every time now, and I brought that in, and that must have been quite a bit of oh shit, we're doing this situation for you, because you didn't know we were going to go down that route as well. So obviously, where we got to at the end here, he's been around for all of that and been useful for us to go, hey, Freddie, what do you think? Which has been quite, it helps us a little bit. But yeah, to get to that point, well, I think we knew it was a possibility. Maybe you and I had a chat about it, because I'd had a personal thing happen that week. It was all going Pete Tong in my life, and I was like making big decisions. So I was like, you know what? I feel like it's the right decision, and it feels like what she would do based on what she knows and the fact that it's her family. So, and everything was falling apart. So it was the only thing to do, really. Yeah, that's generally how we went with it.
I think in most fights, Tisha wouldn't have been anywhere near a decision like that. But I think it was also probably the first time the party saw how powerful some blood magic was. Like the shit that was giving Smoke a level of exhaustion on every failed charisma save or whatever it was. It was like, uh-oh. And so, yeah, I think who knows how the campaign would have gone if she'd have chosen to carry on fighting, because maybe Smoke wouldn't have survived. Someone else was petrified.
Smoke didn't survive.
Yeah, Tilly was the only one.
Oh yeah, no, Smoke didn't survive. He had to be resurrected, but maybe he couldn't have been resurrected. You see what I mean? Like,
yeah, it could have been. I think it would have been a TPK at that point.
Yeah,
it was really like, I guess maybe the only time when it really got that close. Yeah.
Because Tilly's the only one that actually saw Tisha do the sacrifice, because everybody else was either unconscious or turned to stone or dead.
Yeah. Heavily emotional though.
Or not there, right? If I remember correctly, Jacob wasn't there at all.
Yeah, Jacob had left you high and dry at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So unconscious, dead, stone, or not there is the state of our team for that fight, and it was really intense. I remember we did that bit of role play with Lucy during the sacrifice, and Tilly. That was very, very emotional.
I think if we look back, I'm trying not to cry. I think I was like, I don't know.
You can tell I was definitely emotional.
Yeah.
So it was really one of the moments that really got into the what actually meant for that character I'm trying to play, what's actually happening, and it was intense, and it was only made so much more intense and emotional when we had to do the whole session of resurrections. We attempted 3 resurrections the next session, remember, all with rituals and everything, and some of them failed as well. So
I think that brings me to a point for you, Gav. I'm going to bring you in if you don't mind. But we're just talking about like emotional investment at the table, and I wonder what are your experiences of like kind of going up to that line of like, being comfortable or happy or trying to hold back your emotions. Have you ever got that far before?
Yeah, and it is a difficult one to balance for sure, isn't it? You want to have those real moments, but it's meant to be lighthearted and fun. We get together on a Wednesday to play games. Do you know what I mean? But like, there is real attachment to the characters and things that it can affect you in that way. And even maybe not at the time, but like on a Thursday or a Friday, you'll go back to it and think, oh yeah, like, do you know what I mean? It affects you days later, and it's just we're just talking and rolling dice, but it can get so like.
So real.
Yeah. And that's what brings me back to the table is just those moments. For me, the role playing is the whole game. Like the connections that the characters make and the choices that you put on players as a DM. Like that's D&D. Like it's great. It can be a lot at the time, but you look back at it and think that was sick. Like, let's have another session.
That's the perfect. It's a perfect summary. You look at it, you look back at it, and say like, that was some shit.
As if you'd all actually experienced it and not just all imagined it together.
Exactly. Exactly.
When you did
it's
that,
weird. We all have these shared memories that never happened.
yeah. So I was just going to say, like, when you were like off what the back of Gav was saying, like, I always thought with Smoke as a character, like, he's the sort of character that if it comes to it, if he has to lay down his life for the right cause, he will absolutely do it. And I knew that's the character I'm playing, and that's what he's like. But me as a player, I would be heartbroken if something happened to him. So it's a struggle because I'm like, I have to stay true to that, you know, like if it comes down to it. And so I remember thinking, like, when Tisha had that decision to make, I was like, oh my God, like, I'm kind of glad this isn't me. This is like the real difficult thing. This is the apex of the most difficult thing to do with your character, like to completely sacrifice them and make a decision, not just die in battle and be like, oh, it was a noble cause, but to be like, oh, either you do or you don't. You have to make the decision to sacrifice your whole character and like let them go. Like, I was like, wow, intense.
I think you're totally right. You're like, it's one thing if it comes down to a dice roll, you fail a death save and no one's got any diamonds, and no, never mind, that's just the way it happens. But I think a consistent theme, you know, right up until the last session was giving you those choices. And yeah, like you say, that is the hardest choice to make, to give up your character that you've so invested in. So well done, Lucy.
I remember you saying something like, you do realise if you make this decision, this character is now mine. That kind of thing.
Know what
You're like, oh God.
I wanted you to be under no illusions. And I've seen that before. I think maybe Matt Mercer did it once, or I remember seeing someone do it because, I don't want to pull the rug out from under you and be like, aha, okay, I can use your character against you now. It's like, no, I understand it's a huge deal and I want you to go in and make that choice with your eyes open. And if you don't want to do it, I want to give you a chance to back out because ultimately it's your character. You see what I mean? And and you still did it, which was great.
Yeah, it was the weirdest thing to go yes to that, though, to make that decision beyond that is like, oh yeah, I'm doing it. Yeah.
Awesome.
And then I had a month off.
Yeah, well,
I didn't know if I was coming back. It was like a bit of I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Was there, obviously, that was a very fraught moment and everyone was emotional and it was high stakes and you'd made that decision. Like you say, it was such a difficult and brave decision to make. It'd be very natural. I'd feel exactly the same after there. I'm not sure if I'm coming back. Can I go through that again? Do I want anything like that? But so, Matt, I guess a pertinent question is, why did you come back?
Yeah, God knows.
Why? Why, Lucy?
Oh God, so many reasons. But obviously, like you get, I mean, the get used to, the want to play with the group. That was kind of there. It was sort of traumatic to begin with, and then it was like, oh, but that's going away now, and this is pulling back up. I think a couple of people in the group had said, "Are you coming back?" And I was like, "Oh, they want me, I'll think about that." And then the chance to play a new character and mix it up, and obviously this would be my second-ish character in this kind of way of playing. Yeah, but also I think we had chats and I was like, I don't know if I want to be so invested as I had been with Tisha. And then we talked and then Giselle was created. But then you go through and you carry on, they become your own anyway. So yeah, there's lots of reasons really. But time off helped.
Yeah, sometimes, like we say, it's an intense commitment and it seems so real to everybody when you go through something like that. Totally understood, needed to step away. And some people need to step away indefinitely, and, people have done, Andy's out there if he's still watching. Joe was the same. So yeah. Just on kind of bringing players in or bringing them back, just before we move on to the last tier. Gav, I will admit, obviously, you and I played in a campaign outside of this for a little while that was a little bit less consistent than this one, and I knew about your roleplay chops for a while, and we've played other things, Blade Runner and all that kind of stuff together.
What
and I think
by chops?
Roleplay chops, your skills.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I did. I think 2 or 3 times at least. I dangled the prospect of you coming and playing, and I think you were so. At least how I remember our interactions, Gav. You were like, well, this is the campaign I'm doing at the minute. This is what I'm committing to, or it's really hacking me off and I'm not in the right headspace to go and get involved with something else right now. I don't know. I don't know if I was ever so explicit to invite you, but I guess I just wanted to let you know that I was on the cusp of it a couple of times, and I'm glad in the end you were able to join in and come and take part.
Yep, I'm grateful for the invite. It's been an absolute pleasure. I think in those earlier times, there was a lot going on in my life, and I don't think it would have been fair on the rest of the group to commit to too much, I guess.
Yeah. I get it. Sometimes things just have to click and get together.
Yeah.
So the last tier, we have the introduction of Giselle, the Grand Library of Al-Harak, and Vida's ascension to the Charcoal Throne in the City of Brass. We've got Giselle, Aemon, Elethra in Nazarim. We've got Crystal Spear and the Blood King's ascension, and Lucretia's wedding, and Red's flock, and the Grave Assembly, and the Chained Library, and the Infinite Library, Draxmore Manor, and Lord Silveranth. Emerging 13 months later, we've got Felidrandor, Freddy's journey to the Abyss, Red's transformation, the unification of the elemental powers, Menelambir and Zetsu's emergence, the Vade Mecum. So much.
That was 2 years in real life.
2 years. I was just about
2 years of tier 4 play.
Let me just right off the bat.
Every time.
Sorry, go ahead.
Is it doubled every time with tier 5 being at 4
Pretty much.
8 years, 12 years.
Yeah, to tier 5 would have been the journey to Pandemonium, lasting 5 years.
Yeah.
I believe we could do it as well.
Yeah. Sorry, Joe.
So what are you going to say, John?
Oh, yeah. No, I just right off the bat for that section, I just wanted to say having Zetsu as like a main villain and my creating him in one of our other games and stuff was unbelievably satisfying, and it was so fucking awesome to have like you take that character and make like such a mysterious, held back for so long and just spoken about in whispers, this real clandestine, super hardcore evil, and to have like I'd created him, and I think maybe especially satisfying for me because when I created that character, we were all kind of playing anti-heroes or on the side of evil or whatever. But with that guy, I was like, right, this is the character I want to make as maliciously evil as possible. Like, he's 100% evil. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing in him that's like he's been wronged, so he sees it as his own hero's story, but he goes against the grain or whatever. No, it was just pure maliciousness. So I think, obviously, I only played out a certain amount of that, but I knew in my head how I thought of how evil that guy is. So then it just made it 10 times more satisfying when, like, there was little hints about him and stuff and what he was getting up to, and I was like, that guy's fucked in the head. Like, I know how, I know how bad he is. Like, it was really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it was that one for me was lucky again. Like, I think that was one of the side quest games where I gave you like a choice of like 5 things, and you picked the kind of like the evil side quest.
The Zashala Sorry.
Yeah, Zashala, where
So
like
bad.
what happened to this land that is now the place where no one goes? Spoiler alert: Zetsu's been there for ages.
Yeah.
So that was a way for me to, I had a whole rogues gallery then that I could have chosen to bring back, and obviously Zetsu was always there to fit in with my A plot. So yeah, thank you. I enjoyed it.
It was fun, yeah.
Yeah.
I was scared. Towards the end, I was scared. Like, for real.
Yeah, I think was it Zetsu ended up taking Red down? I think it was.
I think so.
Yeah, in the final battle. Any other thoughts or reflections from that whole 2 years of play? Anything stand out?
So much in there now.
I mean, the whole infinite library, building the rooms, rolling them, getting, trying to figure out how
Jeffrey.
it all connects. Jeffrey,
Poor Jeffrey.
fucking awesome. Jeffrey was
What a great dungeon, though. Like, I know obviously that's out of some separate source material and stuff, but you were able to bring it alive into our world so much that it just felt designed for it. Like, and it's so much fun the way that place works. Like.
Just to fill you in, Gav, this is a book. It's called the Stygian Library, and it is basically designed to be a library that you can access from any kind of place in your TTRPG world where there is an accumulation of knowledge, a library, a bookshop, whatever it might be. And it's just meant to be this kind of like interplanar connective tissue of all of the knowledge and planes in the universe, and every time you go in, you have to roll to see what room you go into, who's there, what they're doing, and every time you go like down to a certain depth, and it's different. It's emergent storytelling, emergent gameplay, and it was just as fun for me to play in as you guys because I had no fucking idea what was going to be next.
And we had the like the most unhinged rolls as well. Like the very first room had like the machine that could answer every question.
Oh yeah, that was sick. Yeah.
Dan was sweating like
I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, be warned, this machine should contain all of the certain knowledge in your world. It may not know everything, but if your players ask it a question, it will respond with a yes or no. So be prepared. I was like, oh my God.
I was like, I hope Dan's got a lot of answers because I got a lot of questions. We could have stayed in that room for a month. Like,
yeah, we ended up getting distracted, and there was like these librarians that come up in the most peculiar ways, and having experimented on brains, and that was so fucking unhinged. Every room, there was a room where there was like. Yes, there was like weird bees made of paper, but there was like a room where there was like a mouse attorneys. Well, am I remembering it right? Where they gave us when they came from a different city, and they were like this attorney firm, and they gave me
they were like
they gave you a book.
legal hacks, weren't they? They were just kind of like these like.
They gave me like a calling card, but then fucking that turned the time back, and then everything went to shit, and this was the most unhinged. Like we did fucking 10 sessions in there, like 2 straight months in the fucking library.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was my favorite, I think, arc of Tier 4 because of I precisely had no idea. It was a different set of intellectual challenges at that point for me, trying to weave that all together. Fuck knows how it all ended up coming off so well, but yeah. We obviously had the... Go on, Kirsty.
No, I was going to change it onto something else.
No, yeah, go on.
I really liked, I think it was like a book that you had, and it was a temple, and Andraste was like at the end of it.
Oh, Aberrant Reflections.
Yeah. It was like
almost
like a contained thing.
We did that at Gareth's
campaign
house.
story. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure where it is now.
It was so cool.
Yeah,
And I don't
going
remember
between the
loads.
alternate dimension and seeing the kind of mirror of the dungeon and the fucking lemon spray and all that shit.
Yeah. And the canary, the little bird.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's definitely still alive. Definitely 100%. I've been looking after him.
Yeah.
And then
That was really fun
after?
for me.
Yeah. And at the end of it, we found Andraste, and that was when we learned about her previous relationship with. Was it Vishan or was it the other?
Was it
Vishan?
Zirian?
Zirian it
Maybe
was.
Zirian. Yeah.
So yeah, trying to tie that all together. You know, she was the original creator of the mirrors. She was a demigod. So yeah, mental, old school dungeon ported into D&D. I really loved. I think I'll get to this bit later, but I would really like to play before I settle on my next campaign. Just do a few more like zany gonzo, off the wall kind of weird shit, like that, like Aberrant Reflections, like the Infinite Library that we did. Just precisely because it's just so creative.
Yeah.
But
it also, I guess, it gave you like a bit of freedom where you weren't having to like think and plan what was ahead because it was all written down in a book for you. But it kind of let your brain do other creative things.
Yeah, my intellectual stimulation then came from making it fit, right? You know, so yeah, totally.
And it is good just to be silly sometimes, isn't it? Like, the campaign's serious and it's like it's got this dark tone to it, but it is good just to like fight a jelly monster every now and again. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Amen.
Yeah, it's like what I was saying before about how, like, you know, when you start off the campaign, you've got like all the whimsical kind of fun. You can be real silly with it, low stakes and stuff, and it changes later. Like, but at the same time, it's not like you're not playing like a TV series or a serious like, you know, theater thing where it's like the characters develop and then become, because there was some stuff that happened to the characters where I was like, you know, realistically, his character's going to be devastated. Like, you know, like it's going to change their personality so deeply, you know, and they'll be so traumatized from it. But at the same time, like, you have to play an up and down balance of D&D. It's like it's its own thing, isn't it? Really, it's not like
it's
another
not just
story
a trauma
set.
simulator.
Yeah, exactly. It's like on the one hand, you have to be able to have that depth to come back to, like, you know, that thing that happened 6 months ago when we were playing was so serious, and now we're bringing into that again, and it's real deep and it's real, like, you know, morose and serious role play and stuff. But like in those months in between, like, you've got to have, like, exactly like you just said, some kind of separate dungeon, some wacky thing that happens, or you just kind of have to be willing to suspend your disbelief a little bit and let go and let the character have some fun and be whimsical again sometimes, even though realistically they'd probably be this like real, you know, broken down or super serious or like super, you know, locked into one thing kind of character. Like, so
it makes me wonder, are there tables out there that always keep and stick to that tone? Do you know what I mean? Like, are there super serious campaigns where, I think there are games out there like, is it like Chivalry and Sorcery, where there's like, you know, you've got to keep track of the weight of your inventory down to the nearest pound, and there's rules for dismounting off your horse and all this kind of shit. There are games out there, but I certainly don't want to play them.
No. Who has time?
Who has time for that? History nerds, that's who. Hello, history nerds, if you're out there. I'm sure there are loads of games you love.
I've been cancelled by the history nerds.
Level 1, get a bag of holding and get someone with a piece of paper and a pencil. That's it.
Yeah.
Don't have to do the weight.
Yeah.
So I guess, you know, obviously tier 4 is much more recent in everyone's memory, and we've had lots of reflections about that. So what I'd like to do is just take a 2-minute break, and when we come back, it's what you've been waiting for, which is the Q&A, where you get to find shit out that you've been thinking about. So if that's okay, we'll take 2 minutes.
All right.
Bye-bye. Hello, welcome back. This is the final part of our epilogue session where we've discussed the end of the Courage of the Cerulea campaign after 4.5 years. We're here with Kirsty, Lucy, Lucas, Gav, and John. And we've just gone through all the tiers, and now we're on the Q&A aspect. So, as I said already, I reserve the right to keep some things a mystery. I'll tell you what I can. I might be able to tell you what I can't as well, if in terms of, pulling back the curtain and telling you what my intentions were and how you guys inevitably went the other way or something like that. So I've just got a little wheel that's on my screen. It doesn't really matter. It's just got your names on it. So it's just a way for me to pick a person to ask a question. Your question can be about a character, it can be about an NPC, it can be a story, a dice roll, the game, whatever you want. I don't mind. So first spin is going to come to Lucy.
I knew it was going to be me.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes I get that.
Put you on the spot right there.
Yeah. I'm going to throw a question. I'm going to start with one for you, Dan. Biggest regret?
Ooh.
Biggest regret?
Yeah.
Ooh.
In the game or
In life,
Life.
in the game. What maybe something you wanted to happen didn't happen, or maybe something that you thought, shit, that shouldn't have happened.
I think it's been a little bit of an elephant in the room given the length of time that he played, but I don't know whether to say it. I don't think I can say it was Gareth's involvement. I don't regret that, but I do regret the manner in which he left. Andy was able to part, on good terms, and Joe, despite being a very young man, also, was very honest about why he wanted to leave. And unfortunately, Gareth left under a bit of a cloud, which, it'll happen at every D&D table. I think when you require so much commitment and so much of an emotional investment, especially a player who perhaps I don't know if Gareth really put a lot more stock than most of us into this game. I don't think I can really say that he did, but he certainly. I think he certainly felt a lot of investment, and when things didn't go his way, maybe just didn't quite have the skills to negotiate that as gracefully as some of the things we talked about, and unfortunately, it got to a point where it got too much, and it was better for him to go than to stay for him and for us. I wish it would have happened in a more amicable manner. I wish that it wasn't under a cloud, but if Gareth ends up watching this, I hope he knows that there's no hard feelings, and I'm glad that he was at the table for the length of time that he was.
Nice. Yeah. Brill. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Let's spin the wheel. And it's Lucas this time.
Yay! So, guys,
just for full posterity, how many questions did you send me earlier, Lucas?
29.
29.
Wow.
Fucking hell.
Yep.
So I asked you to boil it down to your top 5. Which
Wrap
we
in,
might get
guys.
into
We're
some
here
of them
till
later.
midnight.
Yep. I probably went a bit. I actually stopped myself. I think I could have kept going.
Stopped at 29. I've gone too far.
Gone too far. You said between 3 and 5. 29. Yeah. Hey. So I picked 5, and I think the one that I'm most probably interested about. There's 2, but I'm going to start with this one. What the fuck is up with those mirrors and the Saruk temples? that needed locking by Galen's amulet, and did that in any way impact the end game ritual? Did we miss something important by not going back and following it through? How many temples are there and where they are? Right, this is like 4 questions in one.
That is a lot of questions. So I'm not going to tell you where they all are, but there was a temple for each mirror. And at that point, which was the very early stages of the campaign, I was looking for a meta structure for our game. I think I felt a lot of pressure to provide a continuous narrative. And so what I did is I created a historical event, which is the rise and fall of the Cerulea Empire.
Mm-hmm.
And you went in one dungeon and you found mirrors which were meant to be used if you were motivated to use them in that way, to go and uncover all of the other temples and to uncover more about how the empire rise and fell. You would eventually you got to a couple of them. You went to Arnelian, for example, and you found the one on there. But it was a game format. The idea was that every mirror was linked to a different plane, and that also gave me the template to bring in different extraplanar threats for you to face, like a variety of enemies, which could have been adversarial or not to different temples in across Cerulea. There's Saruk people could have locked them away or channeled them for when they needed them for different reasons. And the idea is that you guys would go all around Cerulea, find all the temples, lock down all the mirrors, and stop the coming of Dendar. You obviously did not do that. You found a couple of them, and we got sidetracked. And really, the mirrors and the temples was a distant memory by the time we were, halfway through Silvercrest. To be honest, I don't think anyone was really motivated to go back to the Citadel and find out where the next temples were. But that's just what happens.
I think it stayed on our mind for a long time, and we kept bringing it back and back, and it's just because you deal with so much, and then so the locking of the thing that we did, Galen did twice, right? With the temple in near where Malum.
You had one in the Huntertop Mountains.
Yeah, that's it. And then the other one.
Arnelian.
Yeah, but that's he didn't go there. Galen didn't go to Arnelian. He was already within Panaku's grasps. But when the other one he locked was the Stone Cradle, right?
Yeah, so Stone Cradle was another one. Sorry.
Yeah. So locking them down. What? So that in the end, you just basically abandoned that idea because we abandoned it, or.
Locking them down, having them open would mean that there was a portal to another plane, and generally those are dangerous things. But there would be no point me opening a portal to a place on Cerulea that you'd never been, because you'd never hear about the consequences of it. Do you see what I mean?
Gotcha.
Unless you sat and studied the mirrors and worked more closely. With the B team and stayed at the Citadel, I wanted that to be entirely possible as using the Citadel as a game hub, and it would have been, and you would have just come at the A campaign from a different angle. You would have found out more about the different, the Savoris and the Estafaxes and all these other ancient elven noble families, and specifically Anarnia Onassis. But you never, it just never, like you say, you kept bringing it up, but at no point did you ever decide at a party, no, whatever's happening right now, we don't want to do that. We need to go and investigate these mirrors. And I ended up feeding you the same end game, but just arriving at it from a different way, a way that you guys chose, if you like. So it was nice to bring some of those back, with the amulet, Galen's amulet right at the end, and that still having meaning right until the final couple of sessions. Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Well. This is a lesson. You gotta play D&D right. This was not right. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. It was obviously there was this is all just credit to you and all the options that you've created for us and all these interesting things that we just couldn't freaking stop ourselves from.
I remember
gonna go
feeling
there. I'm
that.
gonna look.
Yeah, I remember feeling that a lot. I think in that transition between tier 2 and tier 3. I was learning as a DM at that point not to put too many breadcrumbs down because I had done that at that point, I'm pretty sure. And that's probably why important things that emerged in the first couple of tiers did get left on the back burner. Because there were just too many interesting things and what you can only do so much. Gav, you are the next person. Do you have a question?
I have a few questions. My first one is
29.
I don't have 29, mate. No, because that's crazy. My first question is, like RuPaul's drag race. If I can talk, there's always a miscongeniality. Who was everyone's favorite non-player character? For me personally, I loved the Great Commune. He was the best. I want him in every campaign I'm in forever. Perfect. Chef's kiss, yeah. Perfect. So just for everyone, who was theirs?
Hey, that's a good question.
I've got to go with Freddie, haven't I? I just from a Tisha perspective, like helpful to have, especially when you're new to the game, but also great character sort of development as well and different ways you go around it. So yeah, I think from a Tisha perspective, Freddie.
Cool. I want to come back to that, Lucy, but I'll let everybody else answer as well.
I feel
Mine
like
is Valzax. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just, you go ahead because I'm struggling to think. I think if I pick one, 5 minutes later, I'll think of someone else. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I'm a bit torn, but I think right now I'm going to say that mine is Valzax. From just a completely selfish, I played Mir point of view, and he was one of like Mir's buddies growing up, and he moved to Cerulea kind of not long after Mir did, and like is a total himbo, like loves like protein powder and working out, but is very a nice guy, and I just thought he was brilliant. My second place
thanks
is
to
Jordan.
Paolo for helping me bring him to life in the early stages.
Yeah, I think maybe that helped as well to have like one player dedicated to him to flesh him out a bit to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And then that gave you a really easy thing to like bounce off and then play him really well for the rest of it. I loved Valzax.
Yeah, he put a marker down for me to go back to quite often.
Yeah. It's fine that he fell in love with Mir's twin. It's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Okay. Who's next?
So I've got, I think I've got two. This is one of my 5 questions that I picked, but I'm not worried because I got another, 22 to go back on. But oh, thank you for asking it. I think because of the ridiculousness of their names, that I absolutely love, but also how you portrayed that character very early in Silvercrest Rock. I'm gonna say my number one has to be Fisto Snickerblink, the gnomish thief that we met in Silvercrest in jail, I believe. Mm-hmm. He broke us out, and then he was a whole part of the sort of like early Silvercrest comings and goings, and he's got
his name never failed to raise your eyebrows nearly clean off your head. Look, I remember you doing this a lot.
So good. The other one, my number 2, I don't exactly remember who she was, but I love her name, Rhonda Burgle-Snurven. The best.
Rhonda Burgle-Snurven.
The best. She was a gnome that we met somewhere in Draxmore or just around that time, I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember who she was exactly, but the name is just fucking absolutely amazing. Burgle-Snurven. Love it. All right.
Cool.
That's it. Those two are mine.
Okay, John.
I think that, yeah, there could be loads. I think I was just thinking about Caduceus just then. I think maybe just because it's a bit more recent, it's easy to remember. But when Sabathiel showed up, that was fucking cool for me because that was like Red had like a fangirl moment. It was like this guy's a fucking rock star, you know. And then he was just like, basically, I'm a solar. I don't give a fuck about anything about obliterating evil. And then he just fucking drone strikes the island that we were trying to investigate. It was awesome. It was just so like so dry in how absolute he was. It was great.
I want to take credit. I think I rolled him, and I don't know why I got the roll, but I did.
Yeah, it was like you rolled like a
20,
really. It was like a D100, I think, and you rolled like a 0 or something, or a 1.
It was a
which was really good, or maybe it was a 2. But yeah, it was like a solar turns up, and solar. If it was a solar, I think it was a solar. It's like, by the way, there's only 11 of these. I was like, well, basically these are like even more powerful than demigods. So this is basically Superman that's turned up. So yeah, it was great. Really enjoyed that. Cool.
But there would be a million. I just want to like disclaimer. It's hard to pick a favorite, you know.
Reed.
Yeah.
Who is your favorite, Dan?
My favorite, obviously the one I played more than most was Freddy. I'll come back to that in a minute. I think I was really self-conscious every time I played Freddy, which actually helped me play Freddy better because so was Freddy. Because you hear a million horror stories about DMs having self-insert characters who are going to be the hero and solve all the problems, DM NPCs, and I just didn't want Freddy to be that. I know after 13 months away, he ended up having his own kind of off-screen arc, his like travel to the abyss and back. But it was purely to help me facilitate Tisha's return, and you know, so I was really trying to shirk the spotlight, and I did that quite often in combat because I didn't want to, you know, use too many big boy spells and ruin my own encounters.
He kept just like teleporting us around the battlefield, always in the worst possible circumstances. Outcome. It was especially for me. It was. I think he secretly hates me. It was hilarious though. Like, loved it.
I think it's really hard for me to look past Freddy in terms of someone who I've played so often, but obviously part of the thrill of being a DM is playing the bad guys, and we've already talked about it, but having that effect on you when I like made Panaku emerge, I really enjoyed. I felt scary. I tried to facilitate scary things, and you all guys always responded really well to that at the table, so I really enjoyed.
Can you do it one last time?
I don't know if I can actually. I've got a bit of a sore throat, but it was bringing bringing the voice like really down and be like, I can't even think of what to say. But yeah, it was guttural.
It's so
yeah,
good. So freaky.
So yeah, thank you for that. I'll just to hover on Freddy and with you for a moment, Lucy. You weren't present really, but I think in one of the first couple of sessions, I basically said to the guys who were playing at the time that I wasn't interested in doing like romance and sex and things as part of our D&D story.
Yeah.
And I know we never went like, you know, we did the romance bit and it was all very twee and sweet. But how? Not always, but
I'm gonna say I don't even remember it.
How did you? I mean. How did you feel as the player who got to like do the kind of romance and the kind of marriage and have like a partner at the table? Did that was that a burden to you? Was it an extra dimension, more pressure? What's your reflections on that?
Yeah. So as I said, it was sort of a last minute. We're doing it. Fuck it. Let's do it. But I think at the lead up to that, there's been like a lot of like, I don't know. I think I was talking to characters about I don't know what I'm doing. I think Jacob had a conversation in the back of a carriage around like maybe it was Tilly about what's the all that kind of advice stuff. And so I just didn't know. I wasn't planning it. I just wasn't
went with it
in the moment. Yeah. And then afterwards, it was a bit like, I remember having this thought of like, shit, nobody does this in D&D. Like nobody brings a character in that's going to be here as a part, like a main character, but with the DM, like I assume nobody had done that. I'd never seen it before and nobody in this group had done it before. So I was like, oh God, am I messing things up? There was a little bit of like that. And then like also how to navigate that with you, have I put pressure on you? Like, is this now an extra thing? You've got to like, oh God, I think through all that. So yeah, lots, but also at the same time, it was throwing like, it was mad, but it was also kind of creative and added something to her. It made sense to her story as well to try and find some kindred in all the trauma from the family and stuff. So like, yeah, it made sense.
It felt organic to you.
That. Yeah.
I'm glad about that because it was a way for me to help us as a party like explore just different narrative themes and to make it feel very personal as well as very epic. So I've got to say, even though I wasn't interested in it at the start, I'm very glad that we were able to do that and explore those things. It added an extra dimension, not just to Tisha's story, but to the whole party. So I really enjoyed it. And
it was cute in the sense of like the sort of the argument kind of ways, or the like the little bits of like, oh, I can tell him off, and that kind of just added an extra thing to whatever.
Yeah, some levity, some.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Just threw that in, but yeah.
Having a domestic.
During a battle or something. Yeah.
Okay.
I thought if I may just one thing on this, I thought it was pretty impressive how this sort of very light-hearted thing that you had and you were doing suddenly shifted tremendously when Tisha made her sacrifice, and the way you had to carry on playing Freddy with that change in mind, I really enjoyed that bit more than the Roman. I thought it was really intense and really like his almost like descent into this madness where he goes and grabs copies of himself from other realities and it's like, you will help me get her back, you know what I mean? And I thought like that was really, really good. I really enjoyed that bit.
I just wanted to say from exactly where you were just leaving off there, like at that moment, I think we maybe discussed it a little bit, and my perceptions as a character and in game were that it had sent him kind of mad enough that he was willing to go to Vudra and actually take part in the prophecy and fulfill it. I was really kind of convinced on this idea that all the things that he'd done that we were following the breadcrumbs of, when he'd been going missing all the time and stuff, and he was bringing in his other cells and stuff like that, was that he had basically like decided to make this one last ditched effort to protect his city by putting up these defenses and parting with this knowledge and stuff like that, because he knew that this war was going to come, Dendar was going to come, and he had to go and be a part of the other team because that was his only way of being together with Tisha. So he really did sell it on how hellbent he'd kind of gotten, so it was very cool. It was glad to see that he turned out, and that he didn't do all that shit.
It was really tempting to follow through with those, because when those ideas emerged, I was like, well, yeah, it makes sense. You almost started to convince me of it. But I think at some point as a DM, you have to give the party those wins and not make everything. It'd be like I'd be repeatedly kicking a puppy with like, more bad news, guys, more bad news. Everyone you love is now a fucking dickhead, and like they turn the world upside down. But yeah, to have that question of how far gone is Freddy and what was in his mind. I liked that a lot. I just thought, what would a 20th level naive wizard whose girlfriend has been kidnapped do to get her back? And I was like, a 20th level wizard would do absolutely fucking anything that was physically possible and then find stuff that wasn't possible and do that anyway. So that was my motivation behind that.
What was
Kirsty,
it? Sorry, I just wanted to ask you a question. Like, if it was for me, like, I'd know I was holding on to so many secrets, like, because you really knew what Freddy was doing. You could use any example for this. There must have been a million things throughout the campaign. Was it ever, like, super tempting, or was it real difficult to, like, hold your cards close to your chest and not, like, reveal this stuff? Because I would have been dying to. Like, I would have been given all the clues, like...
It was horrible at times because... I don't like sitting on things for literal years. But I think I just became really good at compartmentalizing. Like, quite often, Kirsty and I would speak and reflect on the latest session, and me asking for like her reflections and her thoughts about the game basically just took me out of myself. And I just started to look at it from the player's perspective, and that really did quell my own kind of like urges to be like, oh yeah, but guess what?
yeah.
So talking to you guys helped with that, definitely. And speaking of Kirsty, it's your question now.
Yeah. In the 13 months, did anything else significant happen that we just never found out about because we didn't go there?
In the 13 months that you were in the Infinite Library, well, that is the majority of that time. Lone Spell was in charge of this final excavation. He was negotiating a position for himself in Dendar's New World Order. And so that's major. You obviously got to him. But other things that are major, definitely Alethra, her powers grew with another codex of hers, which is the Codex Sublimina. You wouldn't have known this unless you'd have really gone back to Nazarene, but basically she controlled hundreds of people. Her powers were expanding. She was taking over Nazarene, as it were.
Yikes.
Because that's what basically the Codex Sublimina allows you to permanently influence people and put them in your thrall as long as you have the book.
Jeez,
so it's like enchantment spells that never run out.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Okay. So she would have only become like a more and more of an emergent threat. Thankfully, she also saw the Vade Mecum rising up into the sky and the sky being plunged into eternal darkness as a threat as well. So, there was that.
I mean, for like 5 minutes before she went browsing,
She didn't even go to the prison. She went off to the library.
She literally just went like, fuck it.
Controlled Dad off.
Yeah, but if the Star Seekers turn up, you might feel like you're not under as much pressure as you once were. But yeah, I guess in the 13 months, the economic situation would have become more fraught. We would have seen more piracy from things like the orcs, who would have been taking the things that were being denied to them. I think just the tension being ramped up. Nothing. I wouldn't have wanted to do too much off screen because then I think Freddy's trip to the abyss was enough to focus on. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Okay. We'll go to another question, and this one's gonna come from Lucy.
Who the hell is the Queen of Air and Darkness?
Okay, so the Queen of Air and Darkness is not a character that I have invented. They are a real. They are actually a bit of folklore. It goes all the way back to like Shakespeare, so like D&D, when it was like starting to be played and it didn't have like lore to go to, they just kind of co-opted a load of existing literature. And so you had like Tolkien and the Hobbits and all of that, and incorporate them. And you also had like, ancient Greece and, things like Medusas and all these, hydras and shit like that. And then you had Shakespeare, and the Queen of Air and Darkness is, I'm sure, a character from
Macbeth.
Is it Macbeth? I don't know if it is. But
is it
Queen Mab, yeah, Summer Night's Dream, I think, is Queen Mab. Is it not?
Fairy referred to in Romeo and Juliet.
Romeo and Juliet. There you go. So
there you go. We were all so
wrong.
All wrong. But yeah, we're not very well read over here. But so in the D&D version, the Queen of Air and Darkness is basically the evil fairy queen of the Gloaming Court, and so she's the bad fae queen, and it's well documented her obsession with changelings, and when you decided to be a changeling,
decided to write her in.
I was like, well, bingo, there you go, ready-made antagonist. She's really interesting, though. I do have a huge mini for her in her true form, which you guys never got to see.
We never knew who she was in that room with the.
Well, because in the material plane, she appears only as a floating diamond. That's it. And if you go onto the ethereal plane, where she chooses to hide her true self, you would find, depending on what kind of version of the lore you read, my version, you won't see all the details here, but I've got this like horrendous bug monster, Queen of Air and Darkness. You can't really see, but there's a fairy woman in there with horrible crab claws and wings and shit like that.
So good.
Horrible.
Yeah, she would have been quite the fight.
Well, Giselle's gonna get her big time.
Yeah, I really enjoyed
she killed
that.
Zeb, which was one of my favorite characters I ever played. And now that made me really sad.
Yeah.
Well, I think we.
Oh, we've lost sound.
Dan, we can't hear you.
You cut out a bit, Dan.
I don't think you can hear us.
Dan.
Dan. We can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
He might have unplugged himself. Hello?
Hello? No.
Hello?
No. Fuck.
Game over.
Oh no. One last technical glitch for the road.
Oh shit.
Oh boy.
Gone.
We've all got to tell him how much we love him, right?
Yeah, of course. It couldn't have been the. It couldn't have been the. Couldn't have been an last episode without a technical glitch.
No.
Man, we had so many of these. But we survived.
Best technical glitch. Oh.
Come back to us. Oh no. No.
Wait. Was he frozen? No, his eyes are moving.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey, there we go. Right, really sorry about that. I was trying to reach for the book and I obviously tripped out the mic, but Courts of the Shadow Fae, Book of Ebb and Tides, and Tales from the Shadows are 3 amazing books from Kobold Press, who really flesh out that dark side of the Feywild, and that's where, when we did that Silathan way and all of that stuff, and the Zirian and all of that kind of backstory precursor to Giselle, which gave her a little bit more weight in the rest of the campaign. I really enjoyed that little dalliance we had in the Feywild.
I really like that one side, yeah. Very
creative. Sorry about that interruption. Where's my little wheel gone now? Who's who the hell was Queen of Air and Darkness? That was that. So yeah.
Yep.
Now we're on to John again.
Okay, which one do I want to pick here? I I guess this is something that I don't know if I wanted to ever find out about in game or whether I needed to necessarily write it in or if you did. But it was just about who Red's original parents were.
I think that would have been a cool thing to explore, but I had there was various reasons why we didn't. I think, if you allow me to reflect on those.
Yeah.
We had a lot of focus on parents in the early game. We had Jacob's parents, we had Mia's parents, we had Galen's parents, and bringing in Red at that point with like a queue of parental mysteries, I thought wouldn't have served the story very well. What else? Also, I think from an organic perspective, it wasn't really a question that Red ever asked herself or anybody else. So it was something, if that wasn't what I was getting from you, then it wouldn't have been something that I would have picked up on. If you'd have messaged me and said, "Hey Dan, I'd really like to explore Red's backstory a bit more with X, Y, and Z," then I absolutely could have done that. But then we also got Tilly and her parents and things. So
yeah, I think it was.
We're a group of parent issues people.
Yeah.
That's what D&D is about, isn't it?
I was quite happy for it to be an unknown, but it was more like if you'd planned something, if you had some names, if you had some characters written down, I was like, oh, it would itch. I would need to know. But knowing that there wasn't, I was quite happy with that. And that's why I didn't explain it, because they were completely estranged. It's not like, you know what I mean? They were just completely outwardly estranged, and she didn't want anything to do with the idea of them. So
exactly, I think if I'd have reached down and reached for that, it would have been kind of evidence of me not really listening, and it would have felt a bit cheap to me. I think kind of reaching for something that had never been grasped for prior. Right? But yeah, it's definitely, in terms of Red's future, who knows? Do you know what I mean? Like, seems like an interesting twist or arc that she could have gone on in the future.
Yeah, I suppose there'd be a million things you could do with it if you wanted to.
Yeah, totally. It's really still good to have those unanswered questions.
Yeah, awesome.
This one now is, I put Andy on the spinny wheel because he's sent us quite a few. He says, firstly, for Dan, who was your favourite villain / NPC? We've kind of dealt with that one. I guess I'm going to open this one up that he said to everybody else. Says, which was, was there any story arc or breadcrumbs that the players didn't pursue? Well, we talked about that, but I think what I'd like to do is just ask you, other than Red's parents, kind of building on that question, is there anything else, and I guess Pandemonium, that we didn't kind of get to? Is there anything else that we've not mentioned that we would have thought, I would have liked to have gone and explored that a bit further?
It's kind of one of my questions anyway, but the Alasra plotline for Mia was something that I would have loved to have known more about.
Okay. Do you want me to answer that, or shall we get some other unexplored?
Yeah, if I'm called again, I'll ask my question.
Yeah. Any other unexplored rocks that you wanted to look under? We talked about the mirrors.
The mirrors was an obvious one, yeah.
The small one I had, it was one of my 29 questions, but it's a very small one. It was teased so many times, and throughout the early stage 1, stage 2, whatever, and then we kind of forgot about it. There was this fucking mine next to Silvercrest that we never fucking went to. That was Mirrorlight, right? And I'm just wondering, what the fuck did you, if anything, you had prepared on that, and what was in there?
What do you mean, what the fuck, if anything, I'd have prepared? I had that one ready to go for like months, and no one went near it.
I am so
I had some cool like crystal elemental beings that had it was basically like living Mirrorlight you could have got to meet, and who knows how much of an ally that they would have been. but hey ho, it was just one of those things.
That would have had a
Seemed
lot of
like
implications on what we would have thought about Mirror Light when we'd encountered it.
Yeah, totally.
Interesting.
Maybe there would have been a Mirror Light dragon. Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, that definitely was that was the first major unexplored thing that just got put on the hook and never got taken off.
No,
yeah,
it was a thorn.
It's all right. Okay, Kirsty, shall we talk about Elastra briefly?
Yeah.
I think the question that you sent me was like, why did Elastra feel like she had to give Mia up?
Yeah.
And for me, I disappeared down a rabbit hole again. Elastra Silverhand is not a character that I've made up. It's someone that I've incorporated from actual Forgotten Realms lore. She's one of the 7 sisters who were all daughters of Midnight, I believe, or another incarnation of Mystra when she walked the earth after the spell plague and all the gods were forced to walk the earth as mortals. She had 7 children, and Elastra is one of them. And to me, Elastra Silverhand's one of the scarier 7 sisters. She's the Witch Queen of Algorand, and she is kind of a ruthless adventurer whose alignment is definitely not lawful good. And having a child would have been extremely inconvenient to her, I think. And as an adventurer who has almost achieved like demigod status, I think she also would have been very distant from the like maternal responsibilities of being a mother. And that is why Mia as a child would have been given to Madani and basically been Madani's problem to solve out. And what does a lazy, feckless guy do? Well, he casts Wish, obviously, and has it sorted.
Fair enough.
Crazy.
And as a follow-up, if Mia had encountered Elastra again and confronted her, how do you imagine that playing out?
It depends when it would have happened. I think there was a brief interaction where Elastra gave Red something via Mia, or Mia something via Red, like an amulet of non-detection.
Yeah.
It was a tantamount acknowledgement to like, hang on, I know you. I'm getting these Mystra vibes from you. I think I might know who you are. Here, protect yourself, because I think I'm going to want to follow up on this feeling later. See what I mean? Mm-hmm. But if you'd have been the Magister, I think maybe Elastra Silverhand would have challenged you.
Jesus.
So imagine fighting your own mother in a wizard battle.
I mean, maybe she still will. Maybe that's what's Mia, I guess, also has this future of waiting to see who challenges her.
Yeah, that's such is the responsibility of the Magister. So, yeah,
and then,
being challenged by one of the 7 sisters.
And then you have to die, right? There is like no middle ground. You have to die.
It was, I think, most of the time someone dies, but
not all the time.
Someone relinquishes the title.
Maybe when somebody's not the dick like Lone Spell, and then maybe they can survive.
Yeah, I didn't know. I thought that he might do me a deal, and that would be a very difficult choice to like choose between becoming the Magister or giving him an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, or risking death. That killed him, Muppet.
You did. You resolved it. Our next question is John.
Yeah, I guess just what exactly, because we kind of did miss that bit, was Smoke and the Tabaxi up to in between when we last sort of played and the Vademecum battle, and specifically, did he manage to unite all the clans exactly, and are there still some missing clans? Because I might be misremembering, but I thought that historically there were at some point 12, is that right?
You're correct.
And there were 9 accounted for, and then we met a 10th throughout the course of the campaign. So there was essentially 2 missing.
Yeah, and I'm going to leave that one because I'm going to say he didn't find the other 2.
Yeah.
But they may still be out there somewhere.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Was
there anything else significant that happened in the kind of like, I guess just because we didn't get to play it, so I just kind of like have a bit of wondering around like, what was in between that point that led up to the final battle where they all,
Well, for me, I think Jade's emergence as this kind of pyrokinetic tabaxi and the defeating of like Pyroclaxis or the kind of chewing of Pyroclaxis in response to the Sacred Crystal clan's like domination. What to me, Smoke then would have been really cognizant of the idea that actually Tabaxi's destiny is to evolve. And I think if you were a leader in that position, you would then use your knowledge of Sacred Crystal Clan and Jade and to go and find other evolving Tabaxi that had powers of their own in the different clans and kind of unite people under this kind of Professor X version of Tabaxi where actually
that's awesome.
there's this growth potential in all Tabaxi that needs to be catered for, and maybe we can't do that as separate clans, and maybe we do need to integrate to learn about how to control these powers and things like that. So for me, it would have been around that journey. And who knows? I think we were very far along in Smoke's character development, but I wouldn't have ruled out the possibility, especially given his affinity with flaming swords, that Smoke wouldn't have developed some psionic powers of his own.
Yeah, we didn't quite get to that point of doing that, but we did talk about the possibilities there.
Yeah. So badass Professor X with flame powers, maybe.
That'd be cool as fuck. So thinking about it, so Smoke is actually the only one that lived through like the first session to the last session, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, he obviously took a bit of a break while you played.
Yeah, didn't do every session and stuff, but yeah.
But yeah, he was there at the beginning and the very end.
Technically, Hector's still alive, so he's not played by anyone. But
yeah,
that was a good getting him trapped in the Iron Flask and stuff, and just the whole Hector. What an ingredient to this campaign! Wow.
Yeah, madness.
It's great.
Literally madness. Okay, our next question is another Andy question. Oh, Lucas, I feel like it's avoiding you on purpose. What else? Do you feel there's any unfinished business? Would you maybe revisit Cerulea if the opportunity came up? Okay. It feels like a bit of a vain question, but it is. Andy has asked it here. Would you ever want to jump back in and play either a short adventure or another small campaign in this world in the future, or do you feel actually? I feel like either my character or the story or my involvement is at a good place to put it to bed. Like I'm totally open to all opinions. That's a good question, I think. Would you carry on? Would you play again? Would you want to play something different?
Not that I wouldn't want to play something different, but I feel like I could just play a million games in this world. You'd have to start a new character at a lower level just for the nature of it. But yeah, like in any future, past, current. Existing characters, totally new ones, different place. Like, yeah, why not?
Yeah, effectively, the Isles have been like 50% unexplored still. You've created this thing, and it's kind of weird because you when you've created this map, when you first created it, but probably years before we started playing, I would assume, or some concept.
No, it was while we were playing. Really, I had a loose outline of the map when we started playing, but it took me about 3 months of solid work to get it all together.
When you had the first sort of like, okay, this is sort of almost complete feeling after those few months that you said, did you feel like this was a big world or it was a small? Did you feel like, oh, they just gonna go through everything and I'm gonna run out of things, or I've created way too much? Which was the feeling that you had on that?
I never thought of it as a small world, no, but I did envisage us get into more of it when I designed it. I have so much unexplored lore. I could tell you about Kalihunda, Azure, Marieth, Balgaram. I know these places because I wrote them, but we didn't get anywhere near them.
Not even close.
They're not even mentioned in a 4.5 year campaign, even though they're just over there.
Sunhold was. We met a few people.
Yeah, Sunhold. We could have done a little mission in. But yeah.
Anything north of Jadewater on that whole continent, nothing.
I actually ran a one-shot called The Last Light at Wintergrave for some other players who are not connected to this campaign at all. So that was really fun for me to take my existing world. Wintergrave was a place where humans had tried to set up during the settlement wars and kind of not realized where they were bedding down and what was there. So it didn't really go well for them. There are loads more games available and loads more places that are unexplored.
So it's because of that Cerulea is definitely not a closed book. So to answer your question, absolutely wouldn't have anything against either short adventure or something sometime in the future, of course. But as far as Tilly's story, I feel that's I'm done with that. I'm probably done with Star Seekers altogether, to be honest. Yeah. With the good, so it's close the book on them. It's brilliant. It's something we'll go back to in our memories, cherish them. Something like seeing what would have happened to these islands 100 years in the future and doing one shot of that. You know what I mean? Would give you so much to think about. And
I think the thing that I was thinking about most recently was okay, what if Dendar had have come along and wiped out like a real, like you say, in the future post-apocalyptic Cerulea?
Alternative version, yeah,
it'd be really cool.
Yeah, I think that would be super cool with barely anybody surviving and Saruki running around, snakes everywhere. Holy shit! Yeah, that could be That could be very cool.
Yeah. Ladies, what do you think?
Yes, so I'll go for it, Matt. Kirst, you wanna?
No, you go.
Yeah, Tisha, I feel like she's good. I feel like she's had quite a within this world. She's ready to not be so much of it. Giselle, as mentioned at the beginning, there's so much for her. And obviously I played her a lot later. So and obviously there's more to discover. So there's definitely something with her, I feel, particularly the Feywild. More of that would be cool. So something like that in the future might be cool. Revisit that kind of world again. That's my answer.
Yeah, I would play in this world again. I've told you this. Mia. Although, I loved playing her high level, and that was fun. I was very lucky in that I got to complete my character arc with her. So if you were to be like, hey, another campaign set in Cerulea, let's see how we do, I'd be first in line.
Cool. I am not, by the way, I'm not trying to say that's what's happening. I have no plans at the minute. I think I don't think I can ever really stop playing TTRPGs, but once you've busted out a 4.5 year campaign, it's I have to wait to see what inspiration returns to me. Do you know what I mean? And where that motivation will come from and what format it will take. But yeah, I'm very proud of the world we all built together, and I'm sure if we all decided to, that we wanted to at some point in the future, and that's a lot of ifs, there's some stones we could still turn over.
Yeah.
And Gav, you'd obviously be welcome to join from the start next time. If
I'll
that's
bite your hand off.
Okay, that's Andy's question. Should we do a couple more? Lucas, it's come down to you.
Yay! So before I ask one of these from the list, I specifically didn't put any questions around the immediate aftermath of our last session because I thought you would just naturally, like conclude with that. Is that something you plan to do? Like tell us like what would happen in the immediate,
Well, I guess that's something we can discuss. I think the reason I excluded that from the initial kind of epilogue conversation is because I didn't want to get bogged down. It's like, okay, I loot the room, and then I go here, and then I go. Do you see what I mean?
No. I basically meant more like if I was to ask a question about an immediate thing is, when Tara went into that portal, did Dendar stay away? Did he go out? Did we make a mistake? Did we do a good thing? Did we win? Did we win, Dan? You didn't tell us if we won, goddammit.
Oh yeah, no, actually, one round later, Dendar came out. There'd be no defeating him. He killed you all, and Cerulea's over. No, yeah. Do I want to tell you whether you made the right decision? I can tell you that the portal closed. And those futures that you've all envisioned for your characters, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't have come to pass in that kind of short to medium term. Does that mean any of your characters ever hear from Tara again? Does that mean Dendar's gone forever? Those are things that I would like to leave open. You at least save the world from imminent danger. You've stopped the Covenant of the Blood Goddess bringing about their plot as it was intended. But you did choose to let Tara go, and there'd be no way of your characters knowing what consequence that might have had further down the road. You took the risk, but that risk brought about peace. So,
my understanding, I guess maybe this can't be confirmed from what you said, but from what I gathered, the idea was that Tara was going to be the vessel, so that was what was going to bring Dendar through. So the idea was that if she went through the portal, she'd be where Dendar was, so he couldn't go anywhere else, basically.
Yeah, that was her logic.
That was her logic, as far as we know. Yeah. But we can't be certain whether. Yeah. I really wasn't sure at that end part. I was like, oh man, this could be a final twist and rug pull, and yeah. But there's only so much you can.
I will tell you, it was possible to fail the kind of ritual, and for Dendar to be summoned. I had a stat block ready to go. But it would have been at least one other session, and you would have been fighting a challenge level 30 monster.
I don't know if we could have done that. Like, we were strung out from that fight.
Yeah.
You'd
already
kind of rough going in.
Yeah. It would have been super hard.
It would have been. So yeah.
Okay. Side question, and this is Andy's question as well. Mimic coins.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What?
Tell us
Mimic
everything.
coins? Question mark.
Tell us everything about what happened with the Mimic coins.
The Mimic
coins. Did we kill the poor stonemason?
Yeah, you did. You guys flooded Silvercrest local economy with murderous currency, and that currency would have killed loads of people and would have got passed between more people and would have spread out through Cerulea until years later there would still be injuries as a result of coins that hurt people. So yeah, that was...
So on balance...
yeah. At the end of the campaign, the coins would have been spread so thin that one pesky Mimic coin would have been, throw it down the well. But at the beginning of the campaign, where you traded in 5,000 or 12 or 11,000 of them, for whatever it was, can you imagine finding it?
We wanted to do repairs to the fucking thing. That's why we never went back there, Dan, because we couldn't have nice, fancy rooms and stuff.
Yeah, well, that's touche, isn't it? But whatever her name was, the female dwarf.
Ruby Heart.
Yeah, totally devoured by mimic coins.
Nice. Love it. Love it. But, Andy, I hope you hear it. It's a hateful thing our DM did.
Every DM needs an original and unexpected mimic, and that was mine.
It was so good.
Okay. Another question. Kirsty.
Okay, can I do a question to everyone?
Hmm.
What was your favorite roll table that happened? So I think there was one, maybe Sargrandula, that was like a boozing roll table, and we all got some like mad powers. Did it turn someone into like an abyssal chicken or something?
No, Abyssal Chicken was Galen's familiar because he was under the influence.
He got corrupted by Panaku and his
Are you thinking about that drinking table where Giselle lost her soul because she rolled 100?
No,
that was mine, by the way. That's my answer.
Yeah, that was a good one. Earlier than that, there was one. I'm pretty sure it's our Grandula where they were like giving us loads of stuff to eat and drink.
I think there was probably a kooky drinks table that did weird things to you very temporarily.
Yeah.
A long time ago. Yeah. Gosh, it's hard for you guys to know because I don't know if I always told you that you were rolling on a roll table. I just told you to roll a dice and then told you what happened.
Yeah.
Wasn't there something with Tisha early on that if she'd have used certain power, it could have gone crazy? And I can't remember.
I mean, the Wild Magic Surge.
The Wild Magic Surge thing. Oh, that's brilliant.
And we kept rolling to see if I get it, and I never got it.
Oh, no, that's so disappointing.
Yeah, that was a shame that I mean, I don't know how long you were a Wild Magic Sorcerer for, but yeah, it didn't. The table didn't activate nearly often enough, and I think they know that in D&D. I think they've tweaked the rules about that now.
Okay.
There are some crazy things that can happen on that table as well. You can turn into a plant pot.
Yeah.
You just turn into a potted plant.
That just reminds me, didn't Mia lose her hair? Wasn't there
something? Yes, you lost your hair for like a day or something after some was wild magic of some kind.
Oh, I can't remember that.
Dude, I'm gonna ask the AI. Did Mir ever lose her hair? Let's see what it says. Dun, 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 dun. Here is Mir hair changes color to light blonde after she drinks a unicorn blood potion. During her duel with Lone Spirit, Tisha observes the Mir's hair is white. The sources don't explicitly state that Mir ever lost her hair, but maybe that just wasn't in the recap.
I think it was a live.
I think there was definitely something.
A live game, maybe. Well, next question is for Lucy. Or Lucy.
Oh, no one answered mine, though.
Yeah, well, I think everyone was struggling to think of the roll tables.
I would say that I guess I don't know exactly what was going on in them, but we were probably doing a lot of roll tables when we were on the sea, when we were going towards Last Hollow.
Oh, yeah, you were.
Which was generate a lot of cool stuff. And that was a cool... I remember that kind of... It was a real long journey and a lot of random stuff coming up was exciting. So maybe... I don't have a specific idea, but maybe around that, yeah.
Like a witch, a sea hug happened.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then a blue dragon.
Blue dragon, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is the nautical... random ships, which we did quite a few times, and different encounters.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Bilious Princess was the orc ship. I can't remember what the gnome mechanical ship was called, but that was rolled as well.
Oh yeah, Twinflow's ship.
Yeah,
he was a great NPC.
Yeah, he
Trail
was,
and Twinflow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Sorry, Kirsty, I didn't mean to cut you off there. So yeah, Lucy, what's your question now?
I don't know if this got answered and I've missed it, but Draxmore College was quite fun. Quite enjoyed our time spent there with different bits of it. How was that connected? I believe it's for a dragon, but with the Covenant of the Blood Goddess, and we never met the Princeps Midian, the head. And how was he connected?
Yeah, it was connected to the main campaign because that is where Lord Silveranth was like the Chancellor of the university, the Draxmore College, and he was obviously in league with the old elven noble families, including the Savoris and the Montanes. So, yeah, that's where you found out about the Hand of Greed and stuff like that, and it also brought in Tilly's story because he was the dragon that burnt down Tilly's village. But yeah, you never met the chancellor of the university. You met the vice chancellor, who was the hobgoblin war master. But I did that deliberately because that's just me mirroring real life, because it's always the vice chancellor and the chair people that you see. You never see the head. And so that was just me keeping that mysterious and not making them a main character.
Him from a window or something. It was
weird. Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, Princeps Midian was just meant to be the, whether they were a founder or just the, just a name really. You could have met them if you'd have stayed around, but you did not. So hey ho.
What was that hobgoblin's name again?
Yeah, what was his name?
Because he was awesome. This is what I was saying before about favorite NPCs. Like you could just keep going through it and remembering more and more of them. He was awesome. That fight was fucking great with the old Tabaxi.
Yeah.
Hermit. Yeah, that was amazing.
We were like, are we literally killing?
We were gassing up the fight. Here? I was so hyped up to gas that fight up. Yeah.
Is it Vrolvazar?
Yeah,
Vrolvazar. Yeah. He was from a MCDM book. From the Flea Mortals book. It was the artwork that inspired me with him. It looks great. But I don't have the book to hand just now. But yeah, I think that's something we've not talked about, John. Like, I think you and I had quite a few one-on-one fights over the years with Tabaxi and various, I always enjoyed them. Very cinematic.
Yeah, definitely.
But by the way, AI says the captain's twin flow ship is called the Twilight Kraken.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one. Okay. I'll just do a couple more. Lucas, another question from you.
Okay. Let me see, because I just want to. Some of the things that I wanted to ask kind of been answered otherwise. Maybe. Maybe this is actually kind of an interesting thing, and I think you're gonna have some notes about it, or might even remember it.
Maybe.
Morxidor and his 3 wives. What can you share about the 3 of them? We know Lucretia. What were the other 2? Have we met them? Could we have met them?
You did meet them. They were again. I guess I was drawing on literature with Baron von Morxidor, who I mean, I'm a big Castlevania Dracula fan, and so Baron Delsander von Morxidor was my vampire villain, and obviously in Dracula he has 3 female concubines who live in his castle. And so that was the point of giving him 3 wives. Making you at that level, when you were level 4 or 5, fight a vampire lord and 3 vampires as his wives was going to be way too much, and thus I left the other 2 as more kind of downtrodden servitors rather than true vampires, more like thralls. So it was a balance thing, which is the reason we didn't flesh them out too much.
Okay, cool. It's great. But I mean, we did with Lucretia, and she was horrible.
Yeah, she got fleshed out quite a bit.
She got fleshed out.
Okay, instead of do the wheel now, I think I'm just going to leave it open as the last bit, just to any more pertinent questions or anything you'd like to ask or know about, because it's getting on now.
I did have one from right off the back of the final session.
Mm-hmm.
We obviously were crunch time, and we didn't have time to kind of explore the depths of everything that was going on during that last battle. But for me, it was why were the Varanashi there, the Tabaxi that were under control and getting turned into the Maraliths, like, yeah, what happened?
Yeah, for me, the legacy of the Saruk and the Covenant of the Blood Goddess go back so far. We're talking about Tisha's ancient bloodline. To me, the Varanashi would have played some part in the kind of peace that the elves and the Tabaxi made before the humans settled. And I didn't flesh this out too much, but to me, there would have been some kind of pact or bargain or agreement that when, in order to maintain peace, the Varanashi would basically put themselves forward to be the first people sacrificed when Dendar did return. Do you see what I mean? Kind of like a blood pact. And so that's why they did it willingly. The Varanashi were always meant to be neutral. And thus, I didn't. The way I envisioned it was like, even though the Varanashi had a responsibility to facilitate in Tabaxi culture and the clan meetings, it wasn't a group that anybody wanted to be part of, because number one, you would have to separate from your own clan to become like a neutral Varanashi, and number two, you might be called upon one day to give yourself over to the elder evil, and and that's the bargain that the Varanashi made. And so you didn't get a chance to speak to any of the Varanashi about that. But they wouldn't have told you about it willingly either. It would be like
I was going to say
secret.
That would have been like a long kept secret then. That
exactly.
If Smoke had learned, oh my god, there would have been hell to pay. Yeah, yeah. Wow, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any more? I mean, we know Lucas has got like 25 more questions, but
yeah, a few more, but I'm not entirely sure.
Sometimes you don't want to know the answers.
Yeah, which ones I want to know now? Okay, this one maybe. Sorry, did you ask me to ask the question because I got momentarily distracted?
Yeah. I'm basically just opening up the floor now. To...
Okay. More mechanical, maybe. You can just answer it briefly. It doesn't have to be too long. The question I had about actually everybody could say some of that. Everyone could answer part of that question. What PC spell or enemy ability did you like the most or hate the most in the entire campaign? And would you, as a DM, in hindsight, ban any that pissed you off too much?
I'll let you guys answer first.
I had this as one of my questions as well, mainly to Dan, but to the other group. Like, level 20 characters are so powerful. Like, I was playing a level 20 Gloomstalker. It was ridiculously powerful.
Yeah. Yes.
But mainly to like Dan of like, does he regret maybe giving people like certain magic items? Like a guardian emblem is always problematic for a DM. Or do you think any particular spell or anything's like too strong or anything along those lines? So similar, pretty much the same as Lucas's question.
I want you guys to answer like, favorite or least favorite spells, abilities, magic items, and then I will come in on that, because I don't want to say, I really hated this and it turned out to be someone's favorite.
For
Be
me,
brave, Dan.
Castian Steel Wind Strike is just a ridiculous spell. Like, the area of effect that it covers, the amount of damage you can do with it, and then you can teleport behind someone as well. Like, it's just, there's too much good in a spell.
Pretty obscene, that spell.
Got movement, tons of damage, and the fact that I could fly at the same time was just like, Level 20 is too much, man. You can do anything.
That was really good, yeah.
Any more thoughts?
I don't have any like sort of burning like, oh, there's this one thing that really did my head in or anything. So I suppose that's good. I guess though there's, and this is just a general D&D thing, like if there's abilities popping off that like take your turn from you, like being stunned for your whole turn, or especially if it's multiple turns you can't break out of it, I wouldn't want them to be removed from the game. I think it's one of those kind of necessary evils. It's like, oh fuck, it's like it sucks. You really want to get rid of it, and you have to think your way around it. But then on the flip side of that, it's also the greatest when you can do it to an enemy. If you can incapacitate an enemy for a turn, oh, it feels so good. You can give everyone a chance to heal and get a shot off, and taking their turn away from them is so satisfying. It's like there's a kind of extreme thing, because it's, I guess, just because it's a meta thing, it's like it takes a player turn out of the fight,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a balance thing. But I think we did good on that one. For me, the absolute best thing ever that I love as a Tilly was the Wall of Stone. Loved it. Used it so many times. It's so versatile. You could just. I loved it. I couldn't get. Oh, and the thing I hated was counterspell, because none of our fucking group had it since Galen fucking left, and a lot of enemies have it, and I fucking hate it.
I had it right at the end.
Yeah,
had it
same.
right
I
at
had
the
it
end,
briefly.
yeah.
Yeah, we didn't get that much use.
I felt very lucky that so early on I picked an Arcana cleric, because it meant I got access to so many cool spells that I otherwise wouldn't have had. But I think my best thing, the same as John, there's nothing that stands out as like, oh, I fucking hate that. My best thing that happened was freeing Savras and getting the portent.
I know that's.
I think it
I love
helped us
that
all
ability at Galen.
at a certain point. Yeah, it was so
Loved it.
special.
That was so good. It's
Man.
like if I or whoever would be in a situation, and then you just come out of nowhere with like, and the enemy rolls a 3 or whatever, and you're like, yes, it's so good. Like,
Yeah.
especially because we don't even know what you've got, like, under your sleeve.
No.
Kind of, yeah, that's fun. Yeah.
Just from a Tisha perspective, Crown of Stars obviously was like a big thing for her, and also in the earlier game I was able to combine it with something else that was quite powerful, and I can't remember which other spell that was, but I didn't have that when
You did Innovation the first time round, I think. You were innovating, which was draining them every turn, and then you were bonus action in Crown of Stars, which was damaging them every turn.
Right.
It was just like, oh, this
Power
is
combo.
completely fucked.
Yeah. That was quite fun when I figured that one out as well.
Yeah.
And then Giselle had some flyy ones like Tasha's Otherworldly and
that was good.
one. Yeah, anything that you could add extra attacks and flying was really good. And then from a Tisha perspective, like as new Tisha with all the blood stuff, there was a lot more. I think there's a lot more I could have done. Obviously, I've got sorcery points to play with over here, but there's like different things for blood stuff, and I tried. But it was there's just so many.
You had the most
ways
complex character sheet by far at the end.
Yeah, just trying to make it work, but also really interesting to try and make it work. So good.
So there's a couple of things I need to cover here. I'll start with what Gav said about level 20 characters. Like the prevailing wisdom about high level D&D and the reason that a lot of people think that high level D&D that players don't get there is because it is like inherently imbalanced, and it just doesn't work, and you can't really threaten your players. But I think by the time we got there, for me, I was so much more of a better DM than I was when I started. Like, combat used to terrify me at the start of the campaign, believe it or not. I really didn't like running it because I wasn't confident. And then, once you play it for as long as we all have, really, the rules are just a guideline, and you have a good feeling for what is powerful and what's what you should use sparingly and what's fun and what's cool and what's likely to hit and what's not likely to hit. And I was using so many homebrew monsters by the end that I think actually, I think I did okay at challenging you all consistently throughout. I don't think you ever always felt, oh, like we're level 20, so this is a piece of piss.
No, because you were still dropping stuff that was like, every player character gets 70 HP taken off him off this one one minion's turn, you know? It's like, that's it doesn't matter if you're level 20, that hits hard, like,
yeah.
Scary.
So yeah, I guess we conquered high level D&D together. And if you're watching this and you're approaching level 8 and you're thinking, oh god, how do I challenge my players? Just fucking do it. Throw the kitchen sink at them. They'll find a way through. I trusted in you guys as a team to be able to overcome whatever challenges I threw at you, and you kept doing it. It was great. Really good to watch. And that really leads me into the like, are there abilities and stuff that pissed me off and that I would ban? Sure, I'm not human if I don't get Tilly down to fucking 11 HP and then she turns into a fucking gorilla and she's got 200 odd HP. I'm like, great. In the moment, I'm cursing that, but by the same token, there were times in the campaign, and this goes for the Guardian emblem as well, that those abilities stopped the encounters getting away from you. You see what I mean? That if those crits would have hit that didn't get cancelled, or if those wild shapes didn't happen that allowed Tilly to survive, then in some of those encounters, guys, you were fucked.
Yeah. And
so that even though they were frustrating from a combat point of view, because it felt like, oh, that again, it's just a cheesy thing. But, you know, they all had their uses and their clutch moments. And so would I ban anything? No, I don't think I ever felt tempted to ban anything. In fact, I was giving you more and more shit to do. I gave the Arcana Cleric Portent.
Yeah.
Like, I gave one of the most overpowered classes one of the most overpowered abilities.
Yeah.
Already. So, yeah. When I say I gave it, Kirsty obviously earned it as Mia. And that leads me to my question. I mean, I had loads of questions, but I don't want to go on all night. But one of the things I did do, I think, consistently for everybody, you know, some probably got a bit more than others just through their longevity, I think, was I furnished you all with all kinds of homebrew bullshit. And was there a piece of homebrew bullshit that you really liked, or one that you expected to use a lot more and you ended up not using? I don't know.
I would throw in that, like early on, the Glaive of the Coasts. Not to do with the mechanics, didn't really actually use it. Like the character just kind of, you know, again, mechanically started using different stuff, but having that as like an item, the narrative weight of it was in that sense, it being homebrew was really cool. You know, regardless of any abilities or how much they used it or whatever, it was cool to kind of have that and as like this token, this mighty token of like the character's history and stuff. So I think that was cool rather than just any ability. It was like what some of the stuff meant, where it came from, like the depth it added to, like that's what made it better than something you could have picked off of a magic item list, you know.
Yeah.
For me,
I get that.
Yeah, and also, well, to be fair, some of the most powerful stuff we got was actually, I think, were just genuine magic, like the Book of Exalted Deeds and shit like that, you know.
That wasn't homebrew, obviously.
What was cool about the homebrew, definitely.
Read this book.
It was in the world, you know. It was cool to get a piece of the story that you carried around with your character. That was what's cool about it.
Awesome. Anyone else? Anything to share?
I had some cool ones, and it's hard to choose. Like the Codex Eternus is really up there, but one that I thought was really cool that I maybe didn't use enough was the Chained Library Tattoo and the ability to like close your mind. I thought that was really cool. When I used it, it was very useful.
Just to succeed on all concentration checks?
Yeah, that was your whole action. If you're like doing something that's really annoying the DM, they cannot break it. It was cool.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it really fit, I think, with the whole theme of the chained library. This idea that you could like shut everything else out and focus.
Mm-hmm.
It was great.
Awesome.
The ones that Tilly got, which I love both of them and use them a lot. The mushroom tonics, that whole thing was brilliant. I loved it. And the Hexen Herbarium, absolutely freaking awesome item.
Yeah, doubling your healing with every potion and shit like that.
Yeah. Honestly, if you had obviously more time in the campaign, I'd love to experiment with potions that aren't clear as to what this acceleration could have done, and so excited on.
Did you ever get a chance to accelerate Shaktari's kiss?
No.
No. No, I don't think so. No, I didn't do that. Because
using an accelerated Shaktari's kiss on a Cerulea, it only has just occurred to me now, but Jesus, that would be a lot.
Yeah, I don't think I thought of that at all. But like, I thought about things like, the wine of the starry void, which gives you. What if I accelerated that? What the fuck would have happened then? You know what I mean?
It'd be like so 20 dice rolls you have to do.
I was so excited as to what could have happened, or the thing that really interests me is the fucking memory potion we got from Draxmore College, from that cauldron, the potion that's supposed to let us go through River Styx immune. I would have loved to experiment with that, and it's so not a lot, but the ones that you gave me are absolutely on brand for her, and I had so much fun. I used them. There wasn't anything you gave me that I didn't use.
Cool.
I did loads of stuff I didn't use. One of the things that I thought in the last game, and I was like, how am I going to put this in? And didn't the Sun Eater's Mind, the ring, that it would have used reaction and it would have been a critical hit on the next go to them. I couldn't work that out with everything else, and then also a lot of the blood stuff that I couldn't feed in somehow.
You still did quite a few blood curses. Like I say, I think basically you ended up playing two classes in one there, Lucy, and in the pressure of the combat situation.
There was one of the fallen puppet, which means that anything dead I could turn and move quickly and have an attack, and then, but by then I've moved on to thinking, what am I going to do next? It was just all very go. But yeah, from Tish's side, stuff I didn't use. And then I've just remembered from Giselle's side, although we brought her back for the end bit, the books, she never finished the books. So that would have, there was a coven situation that she'd get more spells from figuring that out. I remember there was 2 or 3 that she was trying to get to. But yeah, there's loads of stuff I could have done, basically.
Yeah, if only there were more time.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for indulging me with that question. And I think at this time now, it's probably good to bring this to a close. We've spent a lot of time reflecting across the whole game, talking about favourite moments, lots of kind of general and specific questions. But it's nice to give the campaign a proper send-off and just kind of bring some stuff to the forefront of your mind that you may not have even thought about for years. Certainly not in my case. I've enjoyed it a lot. And I guess the last thing to say is... go on.
Can we talk about you first?
Okay.
We've been really mushy about everybody apart from you.
Yeah.
And we have to say thank you, because you're the one that really made all of this happen and motivated us and entertained us, and my God, the prep that went into it and your immersion in this whole thing is insane. You've become one of my best pals through this, and I know all of everything that you put into it, and probably I don't know even half of it. and we really appreciate it. Not like we wouldn't be here, we wouldn't have made it through all of this without you.
Oh,
Oh,
And the
100%.
privilege to be able to have access to your mind and all this preparation that you've done in this campaign. You know, it's like we all put a part in to have fun and to be committed to it and stuff like that. But like, you created this whole world for us to have a game in, and all of these characters and everything. It's like, yeah, it's real privilege for sure, definitely.
And just sort of being with it for such a long time and through so much. Like, if you try to list the recaps that we have done, which is just a small percentage of what actually happened in each session, but all the recaps put into one document go up to 360 pages, for God's sakes. Like, if that's not a homage to your skills and everything that we did together, and the story that we've created, that you've it's freaking amazing. Thank you, Dan. It was an absolute privilege to play in it.
Well, no, thank you. I think that document, that, like you say, 360 pages, is an artifact that I would like it. I'd like to imagine that you might reflect on the campaign once and look at that document and use it to just inspire you or think back to that time. Like, it was such a strange time to embark upon a project like this, and I don't think any of us knew where it was going to go. Oh, and Kirsty's gone.
Kirsty got kicked.
And is she back now?
Yeah.
Hi.
Wow.
Oh, it was getting too emotional. That's what it's done.
Discord's like, don't forget about me and disconnecting you all the time. And what you got to say about me, guys?
The main character in this campaign.
The main fucking
And roll
character.
20.
Sorry.
I'm up to no good.
Roll fucking 20.
I think what I was going to say, none of us could have really imagined how long it would go on for, and all of the kind of ups and downs, and how the story would grow and progress, and how committed we would all end up being, and how much we would all enjoy it. I don't know. I think I was kind of dreading tonight being over a little bit, because I think, Lucas, you've mentioned it before, I began almost to measure my weeks by this game, and this game being an anchor. I mean, I've had like 2 different jobs, and got married, and like all this kind of stuff that has happened like during this game. Like you say, I've become closer to all of you. At one point the Discord was like popping off daily with like 200 members or something, and it was like crazy. So I will look back on like the start of this decade really with this experience at the very forefront of my fondest memories. And I don't want to shut the door on like playing with you all again in whatever format that might take, whether it's a campaign or a different game, or just getting round a table at Christmas and rolling some dice or something. Do you know what I mean? Whatever it might be. It's been an absolute privilege. Thank you for all the kind words. And obviously, if there are questions that you've got in the future, or if you ever want to play something, or if you ever want to DM for me, you're more than welcome. I will always endeavour to participate in your tables, and if I can do it in the most engaging, respectful ways that you've treated me at my table, then I will consider that a victory. So, thank you all. And thanks for staying up with me for what ended up being a pretty regular, normal session time. So the last thing to say is to the audience, if there is any, maybe you're discovering this in 50 years' time and you're like, what was that D&D thing? go and watch the last 138 episodes of this campaign, and you'll find out what fucking top tier, epic level, amazing D&D is that most people will never even get close to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this has been Bard College, and I will say good night.
Good night.